Hello dear viewers, support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it, and also make sure you comment your thoughts. Now let's start the video. Goten stood before the time machine, addressing the group of survivors gathered behind him. Okay, the time machine can take up to 4 or 5 people at a time, so everyone must be picked up in batches. It will be your responsibility, Trunks. But because we have other things to do, we must be sent there first. Goten surveyed the dozens of people behind Trunks. If only Kai could travel through timelines. Unfortunately, it didn't work that way, so everyone had to be picked up in batches. Alright, Goten. Trunks nodded quickly. It was a blessing that everyone had survived. As for returning to the past timeline a few days earlier or later, no one would care. The first ones to go back were Goten, Krillin, Trunks, and Mai. Back at the capsule corp, Bulma was ecstatic when she heard that Trunks could live in this timeline. The Trunks of this timeline had died 8 years ago, and she had only seen him for 1 day a month ago. After seeing him, she missed him even more. It would be a great thing if the Trunks in front of her could be by her side. Subsequently, Bulma immersed herself in the study of time energy, and Trunks shuttled back and forth, picking up all the other survivors. Goten, are we going back to the Hakashin God Realm now? After Zamasu's matter was resolved, Krillin asked. Krillin still wanted to return to the God Realm. Under Whis' training, his strength had improved significantly. Whis, an old monster who had lived for hundreds of millions of years, was a real deity-level figure, and his training methods yielded twice the result with half the effort. Yes, we will. Goten agreed. So many people traveling through timeline at the same time is actually a big deal. Beerus-sama must be told. Goten emphasized the importance of informing Beerus. Beerus despised those who lacked the respect he deserved. If Goten informed him, Beerus might not be too angry. However, if Beerus discovered it on his own, the situation might become less favorable. Before leaving, Goten returned to Mount Paozu to inform Chi-Chi and Videl that he was going to practice in the God Realm. After all, if he disappeared for too long, they would inevitably worry. Although reluctant, Chi-Chi agreed, knowing that Goten was Earth's hope. Only his strength could face any crisis. The matter of Hakashin last time left her with lingering fears. If the next enemy was stronger and more ruthless than Beerus, the Earth would be in danger. After leaving Mount Paozu, Goten brought Krillin to the God Realm using Kai. Whis was not surprised that Goten was able to find the location of the God Realm and arrive there in an instant. Because Goten used the Kai ability when he was fighting Beerus before, as an angel it was naturally impossible for such things to escape his attention. Goten, what you're doing is too dangerous, Whis cautioned. You've brought people from another timeline to this timeline. Do you realize the devastating blow this approach may bring to our timeline? Whis already knew about Goten bringing the Trunks and other people over. Although unlikely, a parallel timeline had been born since Trunks appeared here. But in his eyes, the possibility of such consequences was extremely low because the strength of Trunks was really average in his eyes, but it was not impossible. I know, Goten replied solemnly, but the timeline Trunks and the others come from is now uninhabitable. Leaving them there would mean certain death. I'll explain this to Beerus-sama. In fact, the Trunks from the future timeline had always been a warrior that he liked and admired very much, and he couldn't bear to watch him suffer in a desperate world. Besides, this timeline lacked fighters. Whis sighed. I hope Beerus-sama will listen to your explanation. Originally, I wanted to train you as the next Hakashin for the 7th universe, but now it seems you're not suitable for that position. Whis said sadly. He had harbored this idea before, to train Goten as the new Hakashin of the 7th universe. But now it seemed that Goten was still too kind. It was very difficult for such a person to be qualified for the position of Hakashin. Maybe, Goten just smiled faintly. In fact, he had no desire for the position of Hakashin. It wouldn't take long for his strength to completely surpass the level of Hakashin. At that time, it would be just a false title, and he wouldn't care at all. Although Hakatishin was really strong at this stage, it could even be said to be the highest existence, but Goten was very clear that there were many people stronger than Hakatishin in this world. The angel in front of him had strength far surpassing that of Hakashin. And beyond the angel, there were the Grand Priest, Zeno's guards, and Zeno himself, powerhouses capable of obliterating entire universes on a mere whim. And above Zeno, he didn't know if there was any more outrageous existence. Okay, let's continue training, Whis declared, glancing at Goten's determined expression. He didn't want to waste time on this matter either, especially since angels were neutral observers. Despite Whis' status being higher than a Hakitation, he couldn't intervene in this particular situation. All decisions rested with Beerus. Goten and Krillin resumed their training. In this way, time went by day. Trunks went back and forth more than a dozen times, and finally took all the survivors to this timeline. After seeing their long-lost home, everyone also burst into tears. On the 8th day, Beerus stirred from his slumber. The impending match against the 6th universe loomed, and he couldn't afford to oversleep this time.
Who?
Beerus stretched and walked out of his temple and found Whis sparring with Goten and Krillin. Their battle raged on, but neither could land a blow on the angel. Whis' normal state was akin to the perfect Ultra Instinct form, rendering him untouchable. Goten, despite his newfound power rivaling some Hakushin, remained insignificant before Whis. After training for a few minutes, the three stopped fighting. Because their sparring had lasted for a full 6 hours, Goten was already sweating profusely. However, Krillin, who was an android with infinite energy, showed no signs of fatigue. Still can't grasp Ultra Instinct after the fight stopped. Krillin muttered to himself, but thanks to Whis' training, my strength has improved significantly. It seemed that with his talent, he really couldn't comprehend Ultra Instinct, to tap into that kind of divine realm. For him, it was really too unfathomable. In the battle with Whis, Goten seemed to understand Ultra Instinct more and more exquisitely, because he had mastered the Ultra Instinct sign. Therefore, his understanding of Ultra Instinct was much deeper than that of ordinary people. Hey! Beerus-sama has woken up. I thought he'd oversleep again this time, Whis exclaimed while looking up at Beerus, who was watching the battle. Beerus woke up after a mere 400 tacks equivalent to 8 Earth days, a departure from his usual 50-year naps, which was really unexpected. Clearly, the upcoming 6th universe match mattered to Beerus. His pride and rivalry with Champa were at stake. Beerus jumped up and appeared in front of Goten and the others. Whis, how are these two progressing? Beerus asked, intrigued. Beerus-sama, both of them have trained very well, and their perseverance is also very firm. Krillin's strength has improved significantly, Whis replied. As for Goten, the improvement is even greater. He is now infinitely close to the perfect Ultra Instinct. He had to admit that Goten's training speed was really amazing. In just a few days, he had gone from an imperfect Ultra Instinct to a nearly perfect Ultra Instinct. This kind of powerful comprehension ability, even if it was the 12 gods of destruction, he was afraid that it was beyond their reach. Oh, that's really good. Although Beerus was very calm on the surface, internally he was astonished. Goten's strength had grown exponentially. A month ago, he wielded a mere fraction of his current power. And now, in just a month, he managed to nearly master the perfect Ultra Instinct state. If he was given a period of time to grow, maybe his strength would surpass his own. A mortal could surpass a Hakushin. This was something he had never thought of before. Beerus-sama, Goten seems to have something to tell you, Whis interjected, and glanced at Goten, referring to the Trunks incident. Although Goten said before that he would explain it to Beerus, but as an angel, it was still his duty to remind Beerus after this kind of thing happened. Oh, what's the matter? Tell me. Beerus looked at Goten and asked, Right, Beerus-sama, it's like this. For a minute, Goten told Beerus roughly what happened in the future, then how he went himself with Trunks to the future, and they came back. He told Beerus the whole truth. What? Boy, do you know that traveling through timeline at will is a felony? And you brought so many people here in this timeline, it seems that you don't take my position seriously at all. Beerus was taken aback for a moment, then an angry expression appeared on his face. Although he usually doesn't pay attention to what happens in the universe. But traveling through timelines was expressly forbidden by Zeno. Beerus-sama, this incident was caused by a deity's actions. This would not have happened if Kaioshin apprentice Zamasu from the 10th universe hadn't wantonly destroyed the planet where mortals live. Besides, if I remember correctly, Kaioshins have no right to destroy planets.
Goten also said with a serious face, this matter was indeed a god's fault.
You're right, Kaioshin don't have the right to destroy planets. He's just a trainee Kaioshin. How dare he do such a thing? And in the future timeline, he actually killed all the Kaioshin and Hakushin. Beerus clenched his fists tightly, obviously very angry. Because according to what Goten said just now, the Kaioshin apprentice from the 10th universe, Zamasu, not only laid waste to the mortal civilization planets, but also slaughtered countless mortals. And actually dared to kill all the Kaioshin, letting the Hakajin to also die. More importantly, he dared to kill him. This was an absolutely unforgivable thing. Besides, Beerus-sama for our match against the 6th universe this time. Apart from me and Krillin, the number of the other 3 contestants has not yet been determined. Goten continued to speak. It will be difficult to find stronger fighters for a while. Trunks is very strong and can just represent our 7th universe in the battle. He did not mention Majin Buu to create pressure on Beerus. As there were not many warriors in the 7th universe, and now there were only 2 days left before the contest against the 6th universe. There were still 3 players who had not been finalized, and it would make Beerus anxious. Is that so, Whis? Beerus froze for a moment, then asked Whis quickly. Although traveling through time was a felony, but in his opinion, it was not as important as the contest against Champa. If the contest was lost to the 6th universe, that fat pig would definitely use this matter to mock him for a long time. Yes, Beerus-sama. Whis could only nod his head. There were indeed not many fighters in the 7th universe. Otherwise, a few decades ago, such a small fry like Frieza would not have been called the Emperor of the Universe. Damn!
Beerus frowned slightly. They were still short of 3 contestants. At this moment, he didn't know how to find them.
Scratching his head, Beerus seemed to have a very good idea. Then he said to Goten with a serious face, and said, Goten traveling through time is indeed a felony. It stands to reason that with your actions like this, I will have to destroy you. But now I give you a chance to make up for your mistakes. As long as you find all 5 contestants in the next 2 days, and then successfully win the match against the 6th universe, I can handle the matter of your traveling through time. Of course, besides that, you have to prepare me the best food on Earth. After finishing speaking, he was still a little nervous, and glanced at Goten. He was afraid that this guy would refuse. Would he really have to destroy Goten by then? This guy was a rare genius. He hadn't met anyone like him before. He was a very good opponent. If he destroyed him, he would have no one to spar with if he wanted to fight in the future. Okay, I promise you. Goten nodded without hesitation. He knew that Beerus was giving him a way out, and he also didn't have any idea on how to select the other 3 fighters. But to Goten, it really didn't matter, because as long as he was there, he would not lose the contest against the 6th universe. Good! Now follow me to the 10th universe. That mere trainee Kaioshin dared to do such a thing. I will destroy him. Beerus really wanted to teach a lesson to that overconfident trainee Kaioshin from 10th universe. He was just a trainee Kaioshin, yet he dared to cause wanton destruction, even dared to kill other gods. This kind of thing was absolutely unforgivable. Although the mess wasn't made by Zamasu from this timeline. But he also posed such dangers. If Beerus let him live, maybe he would also walk down the same path. This guy's ideals were too dangerous. More importantly, that guy was too devious. He actually killed all the gods in the multiverse so that there would be no one who would interfere in his plans. This threat must be completely wiped out in the cradle. Whis, hurry up and take us to the 10th universe. Beerus gave an order to Whis. Okay, Beerus-sama. Whis nodded quickly. It seemed that after going to the 10th universe, some clashes were bound to happen. He hoped that they wouldn't meet Rumshi, the Hakashin of the 10th universe, because the relation between Rumshi and Beerus wasn't amicable. If the 2 of them met, it would not be a good thing. The distance between the 2 universes was immense, particularly when they were not adjacent. It would take around 3 or 4 hours for all 4 of them to travel to the 10th universe, and the Kaioshin God realm of the 10th universe. At this time, Zamasu was making tea for Kaioshin Goasu. Zamasu, your tea-making skills seem to have regressed. Since the last time you went to planet Babari, your concentration seems to be much worse than before. With your current mentality, you won't be able to hold the position of Kaioshin. Goasu gazed at the murky tea before him, speaking to Zamasu with solemnity. Zamasu was his most esteemed disciple, possessing exceptional talent. His comprehension ability surpassed that of his peers, distinguishing him as a top candidate for Kaioshin. He had once been exemplary. Even the tea he brewed was clear as crystal. However, since his last visit to planet Babari, Zamasu's mentality seemed to have changed. The tea he brewed was no longer crystal clear. Whenever mortal issues were discussed, he grew impatient and even argued with himself. His significant prejudice against mortals became increasingly apparent. This was not the mindset befitting a Kaioshin, so Gowasu was deeply concerned about Zamasu's mental state. "I understand. Gowasu-sama, I will keep this in mind," the Zamasu nodded. A sinister gleam flashed in his eyes, but he kept his respectful attitude towards Gowasu. His recent visit to planet Babari had deeply disturbed him. Witnessing those creatures' selfishness and brutality had filled him with disgust. He couldn't fathom how such creatures, driven by selfishness and ignorance, could be allowed to inhabit such a beautiful world. To Zamasu, their mere existence tainted the once beautiful universe. The idea of ridding the universe of those foolish and selfish creatures had taken root in Zamasu's heart. He believed that only by eliminating them could the universe reclaim its original beauty. A grand plan was slowly taking shape in his mind. To him, the presence of such beings was seen as a testament to the gods' failure. As it was a failure of the gods, Zamasu felt it was his duty to rectify it by eradicating those creatures, to thoroughly cleanse this world defiled by those filthy creatures. Zamasu, please remember that, as Kaioshin, our duty is to uphold peace and stability in this universe and guide its inhabitants towards a brighter future. Gowasu took a sip of tea, then immediately spat it out and spoke to Zamasu with sincerity. Zamasu was his most esteemed disciple, and he didn't want him to stray from the path. For deviating from it would only lead to one outcome, complete destruction by Rumshi. With all due respect, Gowasu-sama, Zamasu began. The creatures we encountered on planet Babari were utterly selfish and foolish. If we truly seek to restore the beauty of this universe, we need only eradicate those foolish beings completely. Zamasu bowed his head, concealing a fierce aura of hostility in his gaze. He believed that verbal teachings alone couldn't reform those foolish creatures. The most efficient solution, he concluded, was their complete eradication, paving the way for the creation of a pristine and beautiful world. Upon hearing this, Gowasu's demeanor abruptly shifted, a tinge of anger seeping through. "Zamasu," he thundered, "it appears you've disregarded my teachings entirely. I've reminded you countless times that planet destruction falls under the jurisdiction of Hakeishin, not Kaishin. If you persist with this mindset," Gowasu continued sternly, "I'll have no choice but to reluctantly replace you." It was evident that Zamasu's mentality had become a significant concern, one that, if left unchecked, could lead to disastrous consequences. Upon hearing Gowasu's threat, Zamasu cast a disdainful glance at his master's back, his eyes brimming with unbridled malice. To Zamasu, these Kaioshin were nothing but foolish and obstinate. Their incompetence had allowed mortals to thrive unchecked, resulting in the pollution of countless planets with greed and selfishness. Ultimately, it was the cowardice of these failed gods that had led to such dire consequences. "Yes, I understand, Gowasu-sama," Zamasu replied, his nod swift despite the simmering killing intent in his gaze. Before ascending to true Kaioshin status, he had no power to enact change. In his mind, there was no place for these cowardly gods in his vision for the universe. In that moment, a radical plan took shape in Zamasu's mind. A plan that, inevitably, involved sacrificing his master Galwas. "Whizzin!" Suddenly, several cracking sounds pierced the air, causing both Gowasu and Zamasu to snap their heads upwards. 4 figures materialized before them. "Beerus-sama!" Gowasu exclaimed in surprise, his expression mirroring his astonishment, for standing before them was none other than Hakushin, Beerus of the 7th universe. Yet Gowasu couldn't comprehend why Beerus, the Hakushin of the 7th universe, would appear in the Kaioshin god realm of the 10th universe. Such an occurrence hadn't transpired for as long as he could remember. As he turned his gaze towards the 2 figures behind him, Gowasu noted that they appeared to be mortals. What could have prompted mortals to accompany Beerus to the Kaioshin god realm? Zamasu's eyes blazed with intensified hatred and killing intent upon seeing Goten and Krillin. How dare these filthy mortals defile the sacred grounds of the god realm? However, he dared not voice his disdain at the moment, knowing full well the consequences of offending the Hakushin. "Beerus-sama, do you have any business in the Kaioshin god realm of our 10th universe?" Gowasu inquired respectfully, after his initial surprise. Despite the presence of individuals from another universe, Reverence for the Hakushin compelled him to maintain a demeanor of utmost deference. I'm here for him, Beerus pointed calmly at Zamasu. Him? For Zamasu? Why? Gowasu looked puzzled. Zamasu was just a Kaioshin candidate from the 10th universe. There shouldn't have been any conflict between him and Beerus. In fact, they had never even met before. But why did Beerus come to the 10th universe to find Zamasu? Because this guy in another timeline, he slaughtered mortals wantonly and destroyed planets. In some other future, this guy killed all the Kaioshin and Hakayoshin, Beerus explained. And hundreds of millions of souls died at his hands. Beerus added indifferently, others have nothing to do with me, but it is absolutely unforgivable that this guy dared to make a move on me. It was clear that, as Beerus spoke, Zamasu's fate had been sealed. How is this possible? Gowasu exclaimed in disbelief. Zamasu has always been by my side and never left. It is absolutely impossible for him to travel to some future time and kill Kaioshin and Hakashin. Gowasu immediately rushed to defend Zamasu. Despite noticing issues with Zamasu's mentality lately, particularly his intense hatred for mortals, he had always remained by Gowasu's side. There was simply no opportunity for him to commit the acts Beerus described. Zamasu from another timeline did it, Beerus declared firmly, but such a threat must be extinguished before it can grow any further. Also, you old guy, Beerus continued, turning his attention to Gowasu. When you choose your heir next time, can you open your eyes? After his words, Beerus stretched out his right hand dominantly, aiming it at Zamasu. Beerus, please show mercy, Zamasu pleaded, looking terrified and confused. I haven't done anything at all. Why must you do this to me? Despite his previous thoughts of wanting to destroy all mortals and questioning the existence of weak and incompetent gods, Zamasu insisted that these were only thoughts with no actions taken. He didn't even know where to begin with such a plan. Being killed like this would be incredibly unjust. Yes, Beerus-sama, Gowasu interjected quickly. Zamasu hasn't done anything yet, and what happened in the future timeline you mentioned has nothing to do with Zamasu now.
As Beerus prepared to strike, Gowasu couldn't bear to see his beloved disciple face such a fate at the hands of the Hakahashin.
Stupid old bastard, Beerus muttered coldly. Do you want me to wait until he kills everyone? Sorry, I don't have that kind of patience, Beerus retorted. Despite Zamasu being a trainee Kaioshin from the 10th universe, his death wouldn't affect Beerus in any way. Even if Romshi was present, Zamasu's demise was inevitable. Hakai, in the next moment, an indifferent voice emanated from Beerus's throat.
With a piercing scream, Zamasu's body disintegrated into a purple speck of light, vanishing without a trace. A threat like this poisonous snake had to be eradicated at the earliest opportunity.
Zamasu! Gowasu exclaimed in anger and frustration, but he knew there was nothing he could do against a Hakayoshin. Let's go. With a disdainful snort, Beerus turned to depart. After effortlessly destroying Zamasu, he felt somewhat relieved compared to before. Just as they were preparing to depart, a voice suddenly echoed from behind. Bastard Beerus, do you think you can leave my universe so easily after taking a life? The voice was assertive and filled with anger. Both Goten and Beerus swiftly turned around to see Hakashin, Rumshi, and Angel Kuz from the 10th universe. Beerus, you're too arrogant. Rumshi's voice cut through the tension. How dare you kill the Kaioshin candidate of the 10th universe in our territory? Rumshi's cold stare bore into Beerus, his disdain palpable. Among the 12 Hekakashin, Beerus was the one he despised the most. Beerus's audacity in directly taking a life in the 10th universe was something he couldn't tolerate. So what? Beerus retorted boldly. This guy killed all the Kaioshin and Hakashin in the future. If Zeno-sama and Daishin Kan-sama hear about this, you'll be done for. Beerus spoke coldly, showing no signs of fear. He had a strained relationship with all the Hakashin, so there was no need for him to show deference to Rumshi. That's just your version of events. Rumshi retorted sharply. Since you took a life in the 10th universe, you must pay the price. The two mortals with you. Are they your apprentices? Then Zamasu's life will be repaid by the two of them. Rumshi's gaze locked onto Goten and Krillin instantly. In truth, he cared little for a Kaioshin candidate's life. they could easily find a replacement. But Beerus' audacity in killing someone within the 10th universe's Kaioshin realm was a direct affront to him as a Hakaishin. How could he tolerate such humiliation? Although Hakashin couldn't fight each other or be killed, Rumshi saw an opportunity to strike back by targeting the two mortals who seemed to have a close relationship with Beerus. Yeah, Beerus scoffed in response to Rumshi's threat. Do you think you have the qualifications to kill people in front of me? Dismissing Rumshi's challenge with contempt, Beerus showed no fear. He believed himself to be superior to any other Hakaishin. If they were to fight one-on-one, none of them would stand a chance against him. Especially Rumshi, whose combat power was only marginally stronger than Fatty Champa's. Beerus deemed him incapable of killing anyone in his presence. Without hesitation, Rumshi charged towards Beerus. Despite not being as powerful as Beerus, Rumshi was still incredibly strong. His bulky frame didn't hinder his speed. He moved like lightning. In moments, he was upon Beerus, launching himself into the air like a meteorite, hurtling towards its target. Reckless fool, Beerus snorted coldly, meeting Rumshi's attack head-on with a powerful punch. Boom! The moment their punches collided, a massive shockwave rippled outwards, sending Kaioshin, Goasu, and Krillin flying. Pow! Rumshi seized the opportunity, unleashing a deafening trumpet. It wasn't an ordinary roar, it was a special skill unique to Rumshi. This roar emitted a powerful energy attack, capable of temporarily paralyzing his opponent's motor nerves, rendering them unable to fight. The closer one was to Rumshi, the stronger the effect. Caught in the blast, Beerus found himself immobilized for a moment. Seizing the advantage, Rumshi turned his attention towards Goten and launched a punch. Pith, you think you can take advantage of me? Your wishful thinking ends now. Goten snarled defiantly, transforming into legendary Super Saiyan 2 in an instant. With a swift punch, he struck Rumshi head-on. Boom. Rumble. The moment the fists of the two collided, Rumshi's body was directly thrown back by the punch. Thump! 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 Isagutijin's body staggered back 6 or 7 steps, while Rumshi was sent flying tens of meters backward. Russell. Upon transforming into the legendary Super Saiyan 2 form, a terrifying vibrant green Kie aura surged wildly around Goten's body, accompanied by powerful golden lightning. Goten fixed his long, narrow eyes on Rumshi. What? How is this possible? Rumshi-sama. Goten's counterattack not only repelled Rumshi, but also left Angel Cuss in disbelief. Rumshi, the Hakachain of the 10th universe, had been sent flying by a mere mortal from the 7th universe. Regardless of whether Rumshi had used his full strength, even 10% of his power should have been insurmountable for a mortal. Yet, Goten had not only withstood it, but also sent Rumshi flying backward. No mortal in the 10th universe could have accomplished this feat. Yet, a mortal from the 7th universe had done it with ease. Is this really a mortal from the 7th universe? He actually possesses power on par with a Hakashin. It's unbelievable. Gowasu was also left dumbfounded. In their minds, a Hakashin was the supreme existence, incomparable to any mortal. Yet, a mortal from the 7th universe had just sent Rumshi flying backward. More importantly, Rumshi's roar seemed to have no deterrent effect on Goten. This was outrageous. This was definitely something Gowasu had never encountered in his tenure as a Kaioshin. Paw! I don't care if you are a Hakaishin or what, don't think of me as an easy target. The only one who will suffer will be you. After sending Rumshi flying with a punch, Goten spoke lightly. His eyes were as cold as ice. In his eyes, the current level of Hakaishin was no longer omnipotent and invincible. Except for Beerus, he feared no other Hakaishin. Since he had mastered the power of destruction even in a real battle with the Hakashin, it was uncertain who would emerge victorious. No, impossible. It's just a mere mortal from the 7th universe. How could he possibly possess such a powerful force? And it does not seem that he was taught by Beerus or Angel Whis. Are you kidding me? When did such a powerful mortal appear in the 7th universe? Rumshi was also left completely dumbfounded. Originally, he thought he could kill that mortal with one blow. After all, he had used 70% of his strength for that punch, but he hadn't expected this outcome. In other words, even if he used all his strength, he he might not be able to kill that mortal. This was simply outrageous, not to mention the people from the 10th universe. Even Beerus himself wore an incredulous look on his face. His gaze was fixed on Goten.
Are you kidding me?
After just over a month of training, his strength has actually improved to this level. Although Rumshi is not the most powerful Hokuyashin, it is too exaggerated to be able to knock him back with one punch. Beerus thought secretly in surprise. When he fought Goten a month ago, this guy definitely wasn't this strong. After only training with Whis for a month, he had strength comparable to Rumshi. Even in terms of strength alone, it was very likely that he had surpassed Rumshi. It seemed that this kid was not only a genius, but also a monster. If it was an ordinary mortal, how could they possibly have such a terrifying training speed? But soon Beerus set his sights on Rumshi. Then he said proudly, "Rumshi, you actually used such a dirty sneak attack method to attack my apprentice. What's more, you were knocked back by a single punch. You're really useless." Naturally, he would not waste this opportunity to humiliate Rumshi. Rumshi gritted his teeth angrily, but he couldn't say a word of rebuttal. Because what he did just now was indeed a bit despicable. First, he briefly incapacitated Beerus with his roar. Then he tried to kill a mortal by means of a sneak attack. But, unexpectedly, this happened. He tried to gain an advantage, only to end up worse off. "Shut up, you stinky cat. So what if I'm despicable? You killed the trainee Kaioshin of my universe, aren't you despicable too? No matter what, I won't let you leave this place easily." Ha! Rumshi's face was full of anger. After an angry roar, he charged directly at Beerus again. If he let Beerus leave the 10th universe like this today, how would he face other gods in the future? If the Hakushin of other universes knew about this matter, they would definitely laugh at it. "Hey, really?" Beerus retorted, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You can't even defeat a mere apprentice of mine, yet you aspire to challenge me. It appears I need to give you a reality check." Beerus clenched his fist and stretched his neck, his tone dismissive. Even if 2 or 3 Hakuteishin were to team up, he wouldn't bat an eye, let alone a single Rumshi. In an instant, the two figures flashed, ready to clash. However, just as their fists were about to collide, Whis and Kos appeared between them. With a single finger, they effortlessly blocked the impending clash. "Beerus-sama, have you forgotten the prohibition against fighting among the Hakushin?" Whis reminded him lightly. "Rumshi-sama, your actions could lead to the collapse of our universe." Q's warned, "When that happens, Zeno-sama and Dai Shinkan-sama will hold you accountable and no one will be able to escape their wrath." The previous confrontations had no impact on the universe. However, a death match between the Hakushin from 2 universes would gradually lead to the universe's collapse. Therefore, such battles were expressly forbidden by Zeno and the Grand Priest. "Damn it! Do I really have to let this shameless guy go?" Rumshi gritted his teeth, feeling as if he had swallowed a fly. It was Beerus who had provoked him first, yet he was unable to punish him. "Beerus, don't get too carried away," Rumshi warned. "I will definitely report this matter to Zeno-sama, and we'll see if you can still escape punishment then." Now that the 2 angels had intervened, it was clear that the fight could not continue. However, Beerus had killed an apprentice Kaioshin from the 10th universe. Rumshi was determined not to let this matter slide. He would report it to Zeno and ensure that this arrogant Beerus was punished. "Really?" Beerus retorted, unfazed. "That will just let Zeno-sama know what your apprentice Kaioshin has done in the other timelines." After all, it was Zamasu who had made the mistake first. A mere apprentice Kaioshin had dared to overstep his bounds and interfere with the duties of a Hakayoshin. Moreover, he had killed all the Kaioshin and Hakayoshin in the 12 universe. Once Zeno found out about this, it was highly likely that the 10th universe would disappear completely. Among the laws of the gods, Zeno had clearly stated that no mortal or low-level god could destroy a high-level god, even if it was accidental or a fluke. As long as the high-level gods were eliminated, they would either be wiped out on the spot or be completely sealed away. Upon hearing Beerus's words, Rumshi's expression darkened. If what Beerus said was true, then Zamasu was doomed. And if Zeno found out about this matter, his own fate would not be very good either. He couldn't understand what Goku was thinking when he decided to train such a person. Whis, let's go! Seeing Rumshi's gloomy face, Beerus said directly to Whis, he knew that today's fight would definitely not have any closure. Yes, Beerus-sama, Whis nodded. To him, if they stayed in the 10th universe, it was likely that the two of them would end up fighting again. Hey, you mortal. What you did just now has humiliated a Hakeshin, so be on guard at all times, because I will not let this go. Rumshi stared at Goten and said, if he couldn't deal with Beerus himself, couldn't he just deal with a mortal from the 7th universe? Although this guy had great power, and even at full power, he might not be able to defeat him. The reason why Hakeshin were Hakeshin was because they had mastered the laws of a universe. This power could kill any creature in the universe. And killing a mortal, Zeno and the others would simply ignore it. Huh? Threatening me? Goten raised the corner of his mouth and said with a cold snort, sorry, your threat doesn't affect me. And I don't think you have the ability and qualifications to threaten me. If he hadn't fought with Beerus before, he would have been more afraid of the Hakeshin's destruction skill. But now, he also possessed destruction skill, and under such circumstances, the Hakeshin's destruction skill had no effect on him. Even if Rumshi personally went to the 7th universe to kill him, the chance of success was only 10%. He might even be killed by Goten himself, because he would continue to grow stronger. Really, Rumshi could only grit his teeth and say, then just wait. This audacious mortal from the 7th universe was proving to be more of a nuisance than that insufferable Beerus. His fearlessness was intolerable. He had to be dealt with no matter what. Huh. You have some nerve to threaten him. If any harm befalls Goten, I will have you pay a price beyond your comprehension. Upon hearing Rumshi's threat, Beerus' eyes narrowed, a cold glint flashing within them as he retorted. With Whis leading the way, the trio then departed from the 10th universe. Rumshi, on the other hand, was trembling with rage. Humiliated in his own universe by that detestable Beerus. This was an affront he could not let slide. If he did, his position as a Hakeshin would be a mockery. After a harsh reprimand to Goku, he was finally able to vent his anger. Once his fury had subsided, he had no choice but to retreat to his realm. There he would contemplate his next move against that Beerus and that infuriating mortal. More than 2 hours later, Goten and Beerus had returned to the 7th universe. Beerus-sama, you've managed to royally offend Rumshi-sama this time. It seems unlikely that he will let this go easily. Whis commented lightly as they flew. Rumshi was a Hakeshin known for his pettiness. Having suffered such humiliation today, he would undoubtedly seek revenge. Do you think I'm worried about him? Even if there were 3 more like him, it wouldn't be enough for me to break a sweat, Beerus retorted arrogantly, a look of disdain on his face. It was a fact. The gap in strength between Rumshi and Beerus was significant. Of course, Beerus-sama, I know you're not concerned. But Rumshi-sama did mention that he would seek revenge on Goten. That's no laughing matter, Whis continued. Goten was indeed powerful, but against the full might of a Hakeshin, he would still be outmatched. Tamed! And keep a close eye on that guy. The moment he enters our 7th universe, notify me immediately, Beerus instructed Whis, a scowl on his face. Goten was the mortal he admired the most, and he saw great potential in him as a future adversary. He would not allow Rumshi to harm Goten. Yes, Beerus-sama, Whis responded with a nod. As for Goten, he didn't take Rumshi seriously. Whether or not Rumshi dared to cause trouble in the 7th universe was irrelevant. Even if he did, he lacked the power to kill him. So, shall we return to the God Realm, or head to Earth? Whis asked next. He hadn't visited Earth in several days, and it was time to restock his supply. Let's head to Earth! I want to see that guy who's been recklessly traveling through time. And while we're at it, Goten can fulfill his earlier promise, Beerus replied nonchalantly. In truth, he no longer cared about the issue of time travel. As long as Zeno and the others didn't find out, there wouldn't be a problem. His main reason for visiting Earth was, of course, to sample some gourmet food. A treat that Goten had promised him earlier. Very well, Whis agreed, nodding happily. After another half an hour, the 4 of them arrived on Earth and headed straight for Capsule Corp. Trunks was training in the front yard. Bulma had made some modifications so that during general training, the energy waves wouldn't spread out at all. This ensured that it wouldn't disturb the city's inhabitants or damage any buildings. Whoosh! Whoosh! Goten and the others appeared. Trunks quickly halted his training. Goten, Krillin, And who might these two be? Trunks greeted Goten and Krillin with a smile, then turned his attention to Beerus and Whis, looking somewhat puzzled. Judging by their attire, they clearly weren't Earthlings, and he couldn't sense any ki emanating from them at all. Let me introduce you, Trunks. This is the Hakahashin, Beerus-sama, and this is Angel Whis, who can be considered our mentor. Goten introduced them promptly. By the way, the reason you're able to stay in this timeline is mainly due to Beerus-sama's leniency, Goten added, hinting that Trunks should express his gratitude to Beerus and perhaps flatter him a bit. After all, Beerus was a sucker for respect and fear, and Trunks was just the type to show such deference. Upon hearing Goten's explanation, Trunks immediately bowed at a 90-degree angle to Beerus, his expression filled with profound gratitude. Beerus-sama, thank you very much. Thank you for taking us in. His tone and demeanor were impeccable. Seeing Trunks' reverent tone and attitude, Beerus slightly raised his eyebrows. He had initially intended to intimidate Trunks, but given Trunks' current demeanor, scolding him seemed unnecessary. His reverent attitude and respectful tone made it impossible for Beerus to threaten him. Forget it, this matter was primarily for Goten's sake, and the food he promised. After a moment's hesitation, Beerus casually waved his hand. He didn't care anymore. The young man before him had shown such a good attitude in admitting his mistakes, so the matter was considered settled. Thank you, Beerus-sama. Trunks thanked him again, respectfully. He had harbored some doubts before. He had heard from his mother that Beerus was a fearsome god, known for his love of destruction and killing. Therefore, he had been quite terrified these past few days. However, the Beerus standing before him seemed entirely different from the one his mother had described. He was surprisingly approachable. With a few simple words of gratitude, he had directly pardoned Trunks for the felony of time travel. Compared to the previous Zamasu, Beerus seemed like the friendliest god in the world. At this time, Bulma also emerged from the room upon hearing the commotion. Seeing Beerus's feline face, Bulma felt a twinge of fear. After all, this was the god who had blown up Goten to pieces and nearly destroyed the entire Earth. Now, Trunks had once again traveled through time. According to Goten, this act was a serious crime. Hey Goten, have you forgotten what you promised me earlier? I would no longer pursue the matter of that kid traveling through time at will, and you would have to bring out the best food on Earth and let me taste it. Beerus glanced at Goten, then said impatiently, it had been days since he tasted the delicacies of Earth. To be honest, he really missed it. Food? Everyone, please wait a moment. I will order people to prepare. It will be here soon. Bulma was momentarily stunned, then quickly responded to everyone. She knew beforehand that Beerus and Whis were typical foodies. They seemed to have a soft spot for Earth's cuisine. It seemed that this time they didn't pursue the matter of Trunks, partly because of Goten's influence, and partly because of Earth's food. 10 minutes later, the servants in Bulma's house had prepared a large table of food. The dishes were colorful and fragrant, causing Beerus and Whis to salivate. Of course, Goten also felt his stomach growling. When he was training in the realm of the Hakashin, he almost never had enough to eat every day. Whis would hoard most of the food and only give him and Krillin a small amount. According to Whis, eating too much was not conducive to training. It was all for their own good. Several people ate for 3 hours. The dishes on the table were also changed, batch after batch. Beerus and Whis were foodies themselves, and their appetites were no less than those of Saiyans. Coupled with Goten and Trunks, these few hours were estimated to consume the lifetime income of an ordinary person. So full, the food here is still the best! Whis, why didn't you discover such delicious food on Earth before? If you had found out earlier, we wouldn't have to eat so much rubbish. Beerus leaned on the armchair, touched his stomach, and said with a satisfied face, after tasting the delicacies of Earth, recalling the food that he had eaten before, it was simply unpalatable, trash. Oh, didn't Beerus-sama not notice it too? Whis complained. However, the cuisine of Earth was indeed delicious. In the entire 7th universe, it was estimated that there was no second planet with so many delicacies. So, the Earth must not be given over to the 6th universe. This time with the 6th universe, we must not lose. Do you understand? Beerus immediately spoke seriously to Goten. If this match with the 6th universe was lost, then the Earth would belong to the 6th universe. At that time, it was estimated that he would never eat such delicious food again. Don't worry, Beerus-sama. I won't lose, Goten said with a determined face. In Universe 6, the most formidable warrior was hit. With no restrictions, he possessed the power to instantly kill Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta. However, his current strength had surpassed that of Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta. Reaching the level of a Hakahishin, it was speculated that even Jiren wouldn't be entirely confident in defeating him. Thus, Hit was no match for him. Hit's basic combat power wasn't particularly strong. His most notable and challenging ability to counter was his time skip skill. As long as one was aware of this and took precautions, Hit was relatively easy to handle. That's good, Beerus said dismissively. I'll leave this matter to you. Once again, Beerus adopted a hands-off approach, which was his preferred method. A few hours later, as darkness fell, Whis and Beerus returned to the God Realm. Goten and Krillin stayed behind as they still needed to find the last contestant. With Majin Buu, they now had 4 people in total. They needed 1 more to complete their team for the universe. 7. After some thought, they considered Roshi, who was over 200 years old, as a potential candidate for the 5th position. Everyone else was more ordinary. Although Videl and Seton could be considered relatively powerful fighters on Earth, they were clearly not qualified to participate in a universe-level battle. Now, they had to either choose Roshi or go to other planets to find a suitable candidate. Although Frieza had died a few years ago, he still had some stronger fighters under his command. Their fighting power was certainly stronger than Roshi's. In addition to those from the Frieza Legion, there were also options to choose from, Heaters and Granola. Goten, besides the 4 of us, there is only 1 fighter left. Who are you going to choose? Krillin asked. If it really doesn't work, let Master Roshi participate. It's just a formality to fill in the numbers. With a few of us, we can win the contest, Goten said lightly. He was not worried about the match against Universe 6. Even if he participated alone, he would still be able to defeat Universe 6. What he was worried about now was whether Zeno would pay attention after the battle with Universe 6. In the original Dragon Ball Super, it was because of the private competition between Universe 6 and Universe 7 that Zeno was attracted. Therefore, there would be a tournament of power between the whole multiverse. Well, that's fine too, Krillin agreed. Master Roshi, although his own strength is not very strong, his mastery in martial arts is not comparable to that of ordinary people. Roshi had once told them a very philosophical sentence. To judge the strength of a fighter, one must not only look at his energy or combat effectiveness. Instead, combine all factors. Sometimes combat skills and experience are more important than combat power and energy. Considering this, he thought that Roshi was a good candidate to participate in the tournament. Suddenly, Krillin had an idea. How about, let Bulma make an android similar to number 16? In the competition with Universe 6, there was no rule that androids or robots should not be allowed to participate. Krillin, you think it's easy to make an android? I did study the production concept and all the materials of Android 16, but even with all the materials available, creating an android is not a matter of overnight. In one day, it is simply impossible to manufacture it. Bulma retorted immediately, even if she was a technological genius and had borrowed Dr. Jiro's previous manufacturing concept, it was absolutely impossible to create an android in one day. This was literally a joke. Hey, there's a simple fix for that.
Just head to the hyperbolic time chamber.
A year there is ample time for you to create an android similar to number 16. Krillin suggested with a smile. No, the atmosphere in the hyperbolic time chamber is harsh, and Bulma is just an ordinary person. The conditions there are enough to crush an average human being, Goten immediately countered. He didn't believe it was necessary to create an android yet, and Bulma simply couldn't handle the harsh conditions of that chamber. Hey, I was just speaking hypothetically. Krillin could only respond with an awkward smile. Perhaps his transformation into an android had left him longing for a companion. Goten, why don't you consider me? Although I know that the gap between me and you is vast, during this period I have already learned to control my cows, and I have almost mastered the flying technique. At this moment, Videl volunteered, although she knew that with her current strength, there was no possibility of her being on par with Goten. They were missing one person now, and they didn't seem to be able to find a replacement for a while. She could also fill up the number in the contest, and along the way, she could see the powerhouses of other universes. You want to participate? Although it's just to fill in the numbers. Your strength is too weak. Goten responded mercilessly. Videl was just an ordinary human being. Such a battle was simply not something she could participate in. It would be bad if she was injured in battle. All right. After hearing Goten's straightforward words, Videl also nodded awkwardly. Goten, speaking of it, some time ago, when you were not on Earth, I participated in an academic seminar. At that conference, I met a very beautiful woman who was also a very good scientist. It's just that I've never heard of her or seen her before. But maybe because I've been with you guys for too long, I always felt that that woman was not like an ordinary person. There was a mysterious feeling around her. Bulma suddenly spoke. Just over 20 days ago, she was invited to participate in a large academic seminar. Most of those who accepted were some of the more famous scientists on Earth, because there were not many people in this field. She basically knew most of them. There was a very beautiful woman among them, but she had never seen her, and her intuition told her that that woman was definitely not simple. To have this feeling, maybe besides a woman's intuition, it may also be because she had been with Z fighters for a long time. So for those special people, there was a different feeling. It was just that too many things happened during this time, and she left those things behind. When Krillin talked about androids just now, she thought of that woman. A mysterious, beautiful woman? Goten asked with some surprise. A woman who could make Bulma feel unfathomable must be very special. After hearing Goten's words, everyone cast strange eyes. Apparently they felt that Goten might be having absurd thoughts. Why are you looking at me like that? I was thinking that she must be special since Bulma mentioned her. Goten said speechlessly. He didn't know what these guys were thinking about every day. Well, anyway, I don't think she's like an ordinary person. I can't say what's wrong, but it just feels like this, Bulma answered immediately. Bulma, can you describe what that woman looked like? Because I haven't felt any strange key signatures on Earth these days. I didn't even feel a stronger key. Goten continued to ask curiously. If the other party was special enough, then with his current perception, he must be able to feel their ki. But recently, he didn't feel any strange ki on Earth, so he was very curious about Bulma's intuition. Let me think about it. The most obvious feature of her is the big, brown, curly hair, and she was wearing a white coat and a fancy plaid tights. Of course, she was really, really beautiful and had a perfect figure. There were a pair of beautiful eyes like sapphires, yes, and a pair of black-rimmed glasses Bulma was trying to recall, trying to describe all her greatest characteristics. The most notable feature of that woman Bulma mentioned was her beauty and perfect figure, and she had a cold vibe, so much so that they didn't speak at the time. Is that so? She seems to match the description of someone I know. After hearing Bulma's description, Goten slightly raised his brows. In his mind, a figure immediately appeared. Dark brown curly hair, black glasses, perfect face, and figure. Doesn't this meet all the characteristics of Android 2? That woman appeared at a scientific and technological seminar, which meant that her technological talent was definitely not weak, and all the features mentioned by Bulma just now seemed to be consistent with Android 21. Although Android 21 hadn't made an appearance in the canon, she was a popular character nonetheless. In terms of physical appearance, she could easily rival the DragonBall goddess, Android 18. More importantly, her technological prowess was on par with Bulma's, and her strength was formidable. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Android 21 was the epitome of perfection. Goten, do you know this woman? Bulma asked, noticing Goten's intrigued expression. Logically, he shouldn't. Goten had spent his early years in Mount Paozu and had never ventured out before turning 7. How could he possibly know her? I'm not sure, but I'm intrigued by what you've described, Goten replied, shaking his head. The appearance of such a mysterious woman who fit the description of Android 21 so closely warranted further investigation. If she was indeed Android 21, then they had found their 5th contestant. Android 21 was not only stunningly beautiful, but also possessed formidable abilities. In her normal form, her combat power was estimated to surpass even Krillin's, and when she transformed into her hunting form, her strength would undoubtedly increase. Like Majin Buu, she also possessed a powerful regeneration ability. She had inherited all of Majin Buu's abilities, as her body contained his cells. Oh, okay. Bulma nodded, then said, but I have no idea where she lives. I've tried searching for her, but to no avail. She's quite the enigma. It seems I'll have to meet this mysterious woman, Goten said, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. Videl, standing by his side, seemed slightly displeased. After a brief chat, Goten and the others returned to Mount Padozu. Krillin stayed back at Capsule Corp to train with Trunks. Thanks to Whis' training, Krillin's strength was now on par with, if not greater than, Trunks in his Super Saiyan 2 form. The next morning, Krillin returned to Mount Paozu and sought out Goten. Goten, are you particularly interested in the woman Bulma mentioned yesterday? He asked directly. Yes. I have a feeling that she's not just a scientist, but also a powerful warrior, but she's hiding her key, making it impossible for us to find her. Goten replied, not hiding anything from Krillin. After all, they had known each other for a long time and considered each other friends. I thought so. Krillin exclaimed, let's split up and search for her. If we find her, Earth might gain another powerful warrior. He grinned, a knowing smile that only men could understand. Goten could only roll his eyes at him. With that, they began their search. Krillin focused on well-known research institutes on Earth, reasoning that, as a scientist, she might be based in one of them. Goten, on the other hand, searched remote areas away from bustling cities. After a thorough 2-hour search, which involved circling the Earth multiple times, they found no trace of her. It seems impossible to find her through her key. Goten mused, hovering midair. If she was indeed Android 21, she would be fully capable of hiding her key, making it impossible for anyone to perceive. Suddenly, a thought struck him. If she's Android 21, could she be staying under Dr. Jiro's research lab? Android 21 was a creation of Dr. Jiro's computer. Much like Cell, it was plausible that she might still be residing in Dr. Jiro's underground laboratory, which housed numerous advanced android-making technology. Whoosh! Just then, a streak of light shot across the sky. Krillin's figure appeared before Goten in an instant. He frowned, expressing regret to Goten. I apologize, Goten. I've searched all the research institutes on Earth, but I couldn't find the woman Bulma described. Over the past few hours, he had practically turned every scientific research institute on Earth inside out. However, he found no scientist with a distinct aura. As for tall and beautiful female scientists, they were even rarer. There were only a few, and they resembled dinosaurs more than humans. It's okay, I didn't find her either. Goten replied, but I suddenly thought of a place. Krillin, do you still remember the exact location of Dr. Jiro's lab? This was also their last hope. If they couldn't find her in that place, then he could only temporarily give up looking for her. After all, there was only one day left before their match against the 6th universe. At that time, they could only let Roshi participate to fill in the slot. Krillin nodded immediately. Of course! I remember. He would never forget that place. After all, it was there that he met the girl he thought was the cutest in his life. Although the girl had already kicked the bucket, she occasionally popped up in his mind. Let's go and have a look, Goten suggested. In less than a minute, they had arrived at the old site of Dr. Jiro's Research Institute. There were uneven stone pillars all around, but the stone pillar in the middle had been blown up, leaving a sinkhole in the ground. I don't sense any K here, Krillin said, looking down. He didn't understand why Goten had suddenly thought of coming to this place. However, Goten had noticed a cave-like entrance in the pile of rocks below. The surrounding area seemed to have been artificially cleaned up, and there were no weeds around. It seems that my guess is correct, Goten said, a smile finally appearing on his face. What do you mean? What guess? Krillin asked, puzzled. He had no idea what Goten was talking about. The place was deserted, not even a bird in sight, and he didn't understand what Goten was happy about. I think I found her, Goten said. The moment his voice fell, an energy ball condensed in the palm of his hand. He aimed at the entrance in the pile of rocks and fired the energy ball. Rumble! There was a loud bang, and the ground trembled wildly. The pile of rocks was directly blasted out of a huge sinkhole. Whoosh! In the next second, a white figure jumped out of the explosion wave and landed firmly on the opposite side of Goten and Krillin. She was wearing a white coat with red and blue plaid tights inside. She had brown curly hair and black-rimmed glasses. Her stunning facial features and perfect figure made it clear that this woman was the Android 21 that Goten had guessed. What? Isn't this the woman Bulma mentioned earlier? Krillin asked, how did she end up at Dr. Jiro's institute? This is a bit too incredible. A girl actually lives in such a remote and gloomy place. On the other side, Android 21 was also surprised after seeing Goten and Krillin. Krillin, Goten? Do they know about me? She wondered. Obviously, Android 21 knew Goten and Krillin. Because of the cells of Majin Buu in her body, it was natural for her to know that the evil Buu had been defeated by Goten. And she was also very clear that these warriors held deep grievances against androids due to the mess caused by Cell. So after she was created by the computer and she absorbed all the memories, she directly chose to hide her ki just to avoid Goten and the others. She knew very well in her heart that even if she had Majin Buu's cells and possessed powerful strength in front of Goten, she was also vulnerable. And a few months ago, she also clearly watched the battle between Goten and the Beerus through a miniature camera. This made her even more afraid to appear in front of those guys. During this time, she was also doing research, desperately, just to find a way to make herself stronger.
Hello!
Android 21. Looking at the beautiful Android 21 in front of him, the corner of Goten's mouth raised a slight arc, and then he greeted her, a slight smile on his face. Android 21? What's going on, Goten? Is she an android too? Krillin asked, looking at Android 21 in surprise, then at Goten. Why are all pretty girls artificial? He wondered aloud. You actually know me! Android 21 exclaimed, her face etched with disbelief. It wasn't just Krillin who was surprised. When Dr. Jiro created her, no one knew about it. Even Cell was a mystery before his appearance. But why did Goten seem to know her so well? And looking at his relaxed expression, it was obvious that he not only knew about her existence, but also seemed to know her very well. Of course I do, and I know you well, Goten replied with a smile. What on earth is going on? Could it be that this guy has the ability to prophesize? Since I've been discovered, it seems I won't be able to escape today, but don't think you can kill me so easily. Android 21 clenched her teeth, her expression turning serious. She knew she couldn't match Goten's power, but she wasn't ready to surrender either. Ever since she was created, she hid her energy every day, concealing the presence of her alter self in her body for fear of being discovered by Goten and the others. Now that she had been discovered, there was no need to suppress the herself. Just let it go, once and for all. Kill you? Goten was taken aback. Did this girl get it wrong? I came here to kill her? Why did she think I was here to kill her? It is outrageous. Ah, what's going on? Krillin was also stunned. In their surprised and puzzled expressions, Android 21 slowly removed her glasses and threw them away casually. Her brows furrowed, and sharp rays of light shot out from her eyes. Rustle. At that moment, a terrifying ki aura erupted from her body. The black and red aura flames jetted out, making harsh noises. Accompanied by piercing screams, a blade-like purple beam of light erupted around Android 21's body. Then she was completely enveloped. After the purple light beam disappeared, Android 21 reappeared in front of them. Her appearance drastically changed. Ha! What a powerful ki, Krillin exclaimed, surprised by the sudden burst of ki from Android 21. Before that, no ki could be sensed from the body of Android 21 at all. But the sudden tyrannical outbreak, this powerful aura, definitely surpassed him. What is it? Is this a transformation? Krillin was dumbfounded. The Android 21 he knew was a beautiful human, but in an instant, she had transformed into something akin to a Majin. This artificial girl's before and after difference was really too big, wasn't it? Gayunen's expression didn't change much. He knew that Android 21 had this hunting form, which could also be called the form of Majin. The current Android 21 was very similar to Majin Buu, with the same skin, pants, and abilities. However, her eyes were completely black, and the red pupils looked very evil. A narrow tube top was worn on the upper body, and it couldn't completely cover her two huge evils. In Majin form, they looked even more imposing. Yeah, you two seem to be very good desserts. Are you ready? I'm gonna eat you all. After transforming, Android 21's personality also underwent a qualitative change. She was obviously no different from the evil Majin Buu. Huh? There's a creepy feeling coming from her. Krillin shuddered, looking at Android 21 in her hunting form, especially the movement of her licking her lips. How could a beautiful woman who was fine just now become like this? It seemed that in her eyes, the previous fear of Goten was gone. Perceiving her lips, the greedy eyes regarded Goten and Krillin as delicious snacks. You two, become my dessert. At that moment, the transformed Android 21 directly condensed a purple energy wave and shot towards Goten and Krillin. This ability was the same as the purple light waves emitted by Majin Buu's tentacles. It could turn people or other items into desserts as she liked. Goten forcefully pushed Krillin aside. With a swift backhand strike, he sent the looming purple energy ball flying. The ground beneath them erupted in an explosion, and Android 21's body darted towards Goten like a bolt of lightning. An eerie smile still lingered on her lips. On the contrary, Goten on the side seemed to be feeling a bit heavy. He felt that 21 in this form had a special flavor. It was clear that, much like Majin Buu, the only way to truly defeat her would be to obliterate every single one of her cells in an instant. Otherwise, it would be impossible to neutralize Android 21 completely. As Android 21's fist came hurtling towards him, Goten caught it mid-air and slammed her into the ground with immense force. Being in her Majin Buu form, Android 21 was still incredibly resilient. However, Goten had no intention of eliminating Android 21. He had sought her out because he wanted her to participate in the upcoming tournament against Universe 6. Rumble! With a thunderous rumble, Android 21's body was embedded into the hard ground. A sharp cry echoed through the air as black and red flames erupted around her body. The ground behind her exploded, creating a massive sinkhole. With a powerful leap, she launched herself at Goten once again. Your persistence is impressive, Goten remarked lightly, effortlessly dodging all of Android 21's attacks. It seemed as though the more she was beaten, the faster and more ferocious she became. After acquiring Majin Buu's cells, she seemed to possess an inexhaustible energy for battle, even surpassing Fat Buu in this regard. Meanwhile, Krillin watched Android 21's relentless assault with wide-eyed astonishment. I can't believe how powerful Android 21 is, he exclaimed. I always thought Cell was Dr. Jiro's most formidable creation, but Android 21 is on a whole other level. As time ticked away, Android 21 launched hundreds of attacks against Goten, but not a single one landed. She didn't even manage to graze his clothes. Krillin was taken aback by the seemingly frail Android 21's immense power. Her speed and strength were clearly on par with Majin Buu and Janemba. He found it hard to believe that Dr. Jiro, a mere earthling scientist, could create such a formidable android. The once arrogant face of Android 21 in her Majin form wore a look of growing concern. She was beginning to realize the vast chasm that separated her strength from Goten's. Whoosh! But the battle had already begun, and she couldn't afford to hesitate. She moved at breakneck speed, her fists raining down on Goten. It's over 21, Goten said calmly. Fighting you holds no interest for me. To others, Android 21 might have seemed formidable, but in Goten's eyes, she was nothing more than a minor nuisance. Even if she possessed Majin Buu's cells, he could easily eliminate her if he so wished. As Goten's words hung in the air, he caught Android 21's incoming fist. Then, with a swift upward movement, he drove his knee into her abdomen. Wow! A loud boom echoed through the air, followed by a gasp as Android 21 spat out a mouthful of purple blood. Goten's attack seemed to have knocked the wind out of her, sending her body flying backward like a kite with a broken string. Boom! In an instant, Goten vanished from his spot. When he reappeared, he was already ahead of Android 21. He lightly tapped her shoulder, sending her crashing into the ground like a meteorite. Boom! Rumble. The impact created another massive sinkhole. Android 21's clothes were now in tatters. The black cloth that had once covered her chest was now shredded, offering little to no coverage. She struggled to get up, but it felt as though her strength had been sapped by a potent force. Standing up seemed like an insurmountable task. Whoosh! Suddenly, Goten appeared before Android 21 again. He raised his palm, and a purple sphere of destructive energy quickly formed within it. Android 21 could feel the threat it posed. Her face turned serious. Although her rationality in this form was not as high as in her normal form, her ability to sense danger had become incredibly sharp. She could clearly perceive the terrifying power of the energy sphere Goten was forming. She knew that it had the potential to obliterate her in an instant. The destructive energy sphere descended upon Android 21's head and stopped, and Goten's voice echoed around them. I have no intention of killing you, but if you continue to fight, I might have to reconsider. Goten's words left Android 21 momentarily stunned. You're saying you don't plan to kill me? Android 21 queried, her surprise evident. After all, Earth's warriors had always sought to eradicate the androids, whose primary objective was to eliminate Goku. Some androids were even designed with the intention of obliterating the entire world. In an instant, Android 21 shed her Meijin form, reverting to her original state. Goten simply nodded in response. Then, what is your reason for seeking me out? Android 21 asked, her suspicion clear. She found it hard to trust Goten's words. We have a tournament tomorrow between our universe and others, and we're still one contestant short. Your power is impressive, so I want you to participate. Goten explained his intentions straightforwardly. Is that so? Can I refuse? A sweet smile graced Android 21's face as she tentatively questioned Goten. Even without transforming, Android 21's inherent strength was formidable, making her a worthy contender for the fight. Yes, but then I would have to kill you, Goten replied calmly. Just kidding, the little brother's character is really a bit too violent. I agree to your proposal, is that okay? Android 21 quickly changed her demeanor, smiling at Goten. She had a feeling that Goten was telling the truth. With his power, if he wanted to kill her, it would be all too easy. It was no exaggeration to say that he could do it with a mere flick of his wrist. Your decision is wise. In that case, come with me. Goten's tone remained calm as he looked at Android 21, though he couldn't help but steal a few more glances at her. This girl was absolutely stunning, and her voluptuous figure was hard to ignore. The figure was quite wow. After catching Goten's gaze, a subconscious smile appeared on Android 21's face. Despite his power, Goten was still a young man, full of vitality, and it was hard for him to resist the allure of a beautiful woman. Once the battle was over, Krillin also approached from the side and admired her figure. Android 21 still looked more appealing in this form. Isn't this Krillin? It's unbelievable. Didn't Earth's warriors despise androids the most? How come Krillin has also been transformed into an android? Android 21 could tell, at a glance, that Krillin had become an android, which was surprising. According to her data, all Z fighters were very anti-androids, but why had Krillin been transformed into an android? It wasn't in her database that Dr. Gero had transformed Krillin. So how did he become one? Krillin looked embarrassed. Being transformed into an android was a last resort, a decision born out of desperation. If the situation on Earth hadn't been so dire at the time, he wouldn't have wanted to become an android. As time passed, he was slowly coming to terms with his new reality. As long as he could protect Earth and alleviate some of Goten's burdens, didn't matter whether he was human or android. Don't ask what you shouldn't, Goten said coldly. Krillin was his friend, and his transformation into an android was a result of his helplessness. Android 21's words just now were clearly a jab at Krillin's sore spot. Alright, actually, now that Krillin has become an android, I have a way to make Krillin even stronger. Android 21 said after nodding, looking at Krillin again. She had fully mastered the android technology that Dr. Gero had developed. In Dr. Gero's blueprint for creating androids, there was a concept of fusing androids together. At the time, Dr. Gero believed that the most suitable candidate was Android 17, who was originally human. If a purely mechanical Android 17 was created and then fused with the original, a supremely powerful ultimate android warrior could be created. This kind of ultimate android warrior was simply incomparable to the likes of Cell. It was a pity that when he modified Android 17 a few times before, he couldn't clearly flush out his humanity out. Dr. Gero was certainly not willing to let Android 17 become the ultimate android and not obey his orders. So that experiment was never conducted. Later on, Dr. Gero was killed by Android 17, so there was no time for the android fusion test. And now Krillin seemed to be very similar to Android 17. They were both originally human. What's more, Krillin was a martial artist himself before his transformation. So if an experiment could be completed, then Krillin might surpass Android 17 in power. At that time, he might become a true ultimate android. What? Krillin stammered, his eyes wide with disbelief. Is there a way to make me stronger? He asked, his voice filled with a desperate hope. May I inquire about the method? Upon hearing that there was a possibility of increasing his strength, Krillin immediately turned to Android 21, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. His desire to become stronger had always been a driving force in his life. Even in his dreams, he wanted to become stronger and be able to keep up with Goten's footsteps. Even if he couldn't keep up with Goten's footsteps, at least he shouldn't be a burden to him in battle. It's just that even if he trained desperately, the gap between him and Goten seemed to only widen. Hearing that he could still become stronger now, he was naturally extremely excited. As long as he could become stronger, no matter what method he used, no matter how much pain he had to endure, he could accept it. Actually, the method is quite straightforward. Android 21 began. It's based on a technological concept left by Dr. Jiro. The idea is to create a purely mechanical version of you, Krillin, and then fuse the two of you together. The result would be the ultimate android. She explained that Dr. Jiro had originally intended to transform Android 17 into the ultimate android. However, due to the inability to completely erase Android 17's human emotions and thoughts, he feared that the ultimate android would be uncontrollable and abandoned the idea. Goten also turned his attention to Android 21. Aware of her inherited technological prowess from Dr. Jiro, including the design ideas and the experience of creating an androids, he knew she wasn't joking. She could indeed help Krillin. Ultimate android, Krillin echoed, his fists clenched tightly, his body trembling with anticipation. He didn't know what kind of power would be unleashed after the fusion, but he was certain it would be formidable. The term ultimate android seemed to symbolize the immense strength that would result from the fusion. Is that how it works? Goten asked, surprised yet convinced. He recalled how in Dragon Ball GT, Dr. Jiro and Dr. Mayu had successfully created a purely mechanized Hellfighter 17. The fusion of two Android 17s had resulted in a power level comparable to Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Moreover, they could continuously absorb energy, becoming stronger and stronger, truly embodying the term ultimate android. Also, at that time, the strength of the two number 17s should not be comparable to that of Krillin now. If Krillin was allowed to fuse together in that way, the result would definitely be quite powerful. Okay, 21, how long would it take for you to create a purely mechanized Krillin? Goten asked, mindful of the upcoming match against the 6th universe. He didn't know if No 21 could make a purely mechanized Krillin in a day. It's estimated to take about 10 days, Android 21 replied, but with Bulma's help, we might be able to finish sooner, maybe 3-5 days. Goten nodded, understanding that creating an android with the exact personality as Krillin was no easy task. Even if it took a few days, it wouldn't affect the match against the 6th universe. After all, with Krillin's current strength, except for the 6th universe's assassin hit, no one else was likely to be his opponent. Ultimate android, I can't even begin to imagine the level of power I'll reach. It's truly exciting, Krillin exclaimed, still engrossed in the thrill of becoming the ultimate android. Little brother Goten, you're asking me to help you in the competition, and also assist in transforming Krillin. That's quite a lot of work. How do you plan to thank me? Android 21 asked, her voice, movements, and eyes radiating a captivating charm. Especially with that beautiful facial features and figure. She was simply a proper charming vixen. Then how do you want me to thank you? Goten retorted, and stop calling me little brother, or I might just have to destroy you. His tone was cold, a stark contrast to Android 21's flirtatious demeanor. My little brother is not little at all. This 21 is definitely uncontrollable. Your temperament is indeed a bit too fiery, Android 21 remarked, her tone laced with amusement. Despite the slight dangers she sensed from Goten, she seemed to be enjoying herself. Well, I'll stop teasing you for now. As for your thanks, I'll let you know once I've decided how you can repay me. Okay, let's go back first. With their conversation concluded, the trio made their way back to Mount Paozu. Upon their arrival, Chi-Chi, having caught sight of Android 21, asked Goten excitedly, is she the female scientist Bulma mentioned yesterday? She's incredibly beautiful, and a scientist too. That's impressive. Chi-Chi had always admired individuals with a cultured background. If the Earth hadn't been thrown into chaos by villains like Cell, she would have preferred for Gohan to pursue a career as a scholar or a scientist. She had even considered the same path for Goten, but the constant threats they faced forced her to abandon such ideas. Yes, Mother, Goten replied, nodding in affirmation. Upon hearing Chi-Chi's words, Android 21 turned towards her with a sweet smile. You must be Chi-Chi. Cultivating a talented fighter like Goten is truly commendable. Thanks. Chi-Chi blushed at the praise, especially since it was about her son. By the way, what's your name? Where do you live? Who else is there in your family? Are you married? She then proceeded to ask Android 21 a series of questions about her personal life, to which Android 21 responded leisurely. Meanwhile, Vito watched Goten and Android 21 with a hint of resentment. She didn't consider herself inferior to Android 21 in terms of appearance, but when it came to their figures, she was not on the same level. That woman, did she eat papaya in the womb? Just one at the starting line. In terms of ability, no 21 seemed to be better than her. She felt a significant gap. This comparison left her feeling quite uncomfortable. This rival was really too strong. The following morning, Beerus and Whis descended on Earth. After a hearty breakfast at Bulma's, Goten and the others headed to open ground at the Capsule Corp. As per their agreement, they were to depart for the unknown planet at 9 o'clock. Upon seeing Goten, Beerus immediately asked, "So Goten, have you gathered all 5 contestants?" He was eager for the upcoming match against Universe 6, and the prospect of not having a full team was unthinkable. "Yes, Beerus-sama, we've assembled the entire team. Rest assured, Universe 6 won't stand a chance against us." Goten replied confidently. He believed that the most formidable contestant in Universe 6, Hit the Assassin, was no match for him. As for the others from Universe 6, none of them were stronger than a Super Saiyan Goku. Therefore, he was certain that their team, consisting of Krillin, Trunks, Majin Buu, and Android 21, could easily defeat them. "That's good, you really work efficiently." Impressed by Goten's confidence and efficiency, Beerus nodded in approval. "If everyone is ready, then let's set off. It also takes more than an hour from here to the unnamed planet." Whis then announced their departure, reminding everyone that the journey to the unknown planet located outside Universe 7 would take a long time. "That, Beerus-sama, can we go to watch the battle?" Bulma asked from the side. After interacting with Beerus a few times, Bulma had grown less intimidated by Beerus. It seemed that, with the relationship between Goten and Beerus, this guy probably wouldn't have any crooked thoughts about the Earth. "Of course, no problem. You can come if you want." Beerus nodded indifferently. A tournament would need spectators. Without them, the contest would be too boring. "Great, Chi-Chi, Videl, you guys come too. Let's see what people from another universe look like." Excited at the prospect, Bulma invited Chi-Chi and Videl to join them. Then, under the guidance of Whis, everyone walked into the Universe Cube. It was a mode of transportation slightly faster than Whis himself, often used by angels when they didn't wish to fly. On an unknown planet, a transformation was taking place. The once desolate world had been reshaped by Vados, and the changes were striking. At the heart of the planet, a massive arena had been erected, surrounded by simple food stalls and auditoriums. Although the audience was sparse, the atmosphere was alive with anticipation. "Well, it's really good." Champa surveyed the ring before him, a satisfied smile playing on his lips. "This style suits me perfectly," he mused. The arena had been built to his exact specifications, and the thought of the Earth of the 7th universe soon becoming part of the 6th universe filled him with glee. The delicacies of Earth, particularly the dish known as cup noodles, were enough to make his mouth water. "Champa-sama, Vados," interjected. "I will now bring our universe's contestants here." There were still 4 hours until the start of the contest, plenty of time for her to make the round trip. "Excellent," Champa responded, his mind already racing ahead. "Vados, are you confident that the contestants you've selected can defeat the 7th universe? We can't afford to lose to Beerus. Not only would we have to surrender the Super Dragon Ball we've sought for over a decade, but that skinny Beerus would never let me live it down." Although he had seen the 2 Beerus apprentices in the 7th universe, but he was still a little worried. If he lost, he would lose a lot of face. After all, this contest was originally proposed by him. If he lost to Beerus, he would have shot himself in the foot. Vados replied calmly, "It's difficult to say, Champa-sama. I'm not familiar with the combat power of the mortals in the 7th universe. The 2 universes are twins, so each have a 50% chance of winning or losing." Champa frowned slightly, then asked, "What about Hit? Will he be participating?" Hit, known as the top assassin of the 6th universe, was a formidable opponent. If he were to participate in this competition, the 6th universe's chances of winning would skyrocket to over 90. "Yes, Champa-sama," Vados confirmed. "I have persuaded Hit to join the battle. It had taken considerable effort to convince Hit to participate, and the promise of the Universe Cube had finally swayed him." Champa's face broke into a grin at the news. "Excellent. With Hit participating, the 7th universe doesn't stand a chance. No matter how strong the contestants from the 7th universe might be, they were no match for Hit. He was a legend in the 6th universe. A killer who had never failed a mission in hundreds of years. In fact, Champa had even considered Hit as a candidate for the position of Hekashin for the 6th universe. This time, if Hit performed well, he could just officially announce the matter. As time ticked away, the Kaioshin of the two universes were the first to arrive at the unnamed planet thanks to the Kaioshin's Kaikai ability. Soon after, the contestants from the 7th universe arrived. Above the unnamed planet, Whis' universe cube appeared. Wait, what? Is that a Dragon Ball? Krillin and the others were stunned at the sight of the 6 enormous Super Dragon Balls surrounding the unnamed planet. They were used to the Dragon Balls of their Earth, which were only the size of a baseball, and even the Dragon Balls of Namek, which were about the size of a basketball. But these Super Dragon Balls were the size of planets. Bulma and the others were equally shocked. It's bigger than the Earth, Bulma murmured. My God, if a Dragon Ball this big exists, it must be able to grant any wish. Heh, what's there to fuss about? Beerus scoffed. Meanwhile, Goten was studying the Super Dragon Balls intently. He knew better than anyone that the unnamed planet in front of them was actually the last 4-star Super Dragon Ball. In other words, all 7 Dragon Balls had now been collected. All that was needed was to use the summoning chant in the god's language to summon Super Shenron. But the presence of the last Dragon Ball was something Beerus and Champa were yet to discover. Let's go! Let's go down and see! That Champa is already waiting. It seems that he is very confident, Beerus said lightly. In an instant, everyone leapt into the air and descended onto the unfamiliar planet. Upon their arrival, Champa immediately taunted, Well, Beerus, I didn't expect you to show up. I thought you'd be too scared, hiding under your blanket. His eyes then fell on Goten and Krillin standing behind Beerus, and his smug grin widened. Just look at Universe 7, not a single formidable fighter in sight. He's even brought along mortals who could barely stand on their own 2 feet last time I saw them. This only boosts my confidence. This time, Universe 6 will emerge victorious. Perhaps we won't even need Hit's assistance to defeat Universe 7. Enjoy your time in the fight while it lasts. It won't be for long, Beerus retorted coldly, before teleporting directly to the auditorium. This venue is far too barbaric, Bulma exclaimed, looking around the auditorium. And these seats, they're just stair steps. How uncomfortable. Who designed this place with such poor taste? This was much worse than the auditorium of the martial arts tournament on Earth. Champa immediately snapped back at Bulma. Hey, who are you calling tasteless? If you don't like the seating, then don't sit. A mere mortal dared to question his own taste. If Beerus were not there, he would really want to destroy this ignorant woman. Is this enough to embarrass and anger you? You are really narrow-minded, Champa. Beerus sneered at Champa's outburst, then turned to Whis. Whis, Bulma, and the others are our guests. This uncomfortable seating is hardly suitable for our guests. Please make some modifications. Normally, he wouldn't hold Bulma up so high in regard, but doing this now was mainly to take a dig at Champa. Sure enough, as soon as his words came out, Champa's eyes shot fire. Yes, Beerus-sama. Whis nodded in agreement, waving his staff lightly. The hard steps of the auditorium instantly transformed into soft cushions, providing a comfortable seating arrangement for Universe 7's side. But on the side of the 6th Universe auditorium, there were still hard steps. After waiting for 5 minutes, with no sign of Universe 6's participants, Beerus grew impatient. Fat pig, I haven't seen any of your universe's contestants yet. Are they too scared to compete? If that's the case, you should admit defeat now. I don't have time to waste here with you. Champa retorted, shut your mouth, skinny. Setting up the venue takes time. Besides, there's no need for you to rush towards your defeat. Just as Champa finished speaking, a brilliant light appeared. As the light faded, the Dals emerged with 5 individuals. Are those the contestants from Universe 6? Everyone looked surprised. Goten looked up and saw familiar figures. In the center stood Hit, the strongest warrior of Universe 6. His calm demeanor and the serene aura he exuded gave off an unfathomable impression. Flanking him were Frost and Kaba. The outermost positions were occupied by Caulifla and Kale, not Vegeta and Butamo, who participated in the original competition. Hey, those skinny, malnourished guys are the contestants of Universe 6. Why isn't there even one strong contender? Android 21 covered her mouth and chuckled. Good. Are those 3 also Saiyans? Trunks asked, looking at Caulifla, Kala, and Kaba. Although they appeared skinny and lacked the typical Saiyan strength, he felt a strange familiarity coming from them. Yes, all three of them are Saiyans from Universe 6. Goten confirmed. Saiyans! I wonder how strong they are, Krillin mused. He knew that in their Universe 7, Saiyans like Goten, Goku, or Vegeta were incredibly strong. So the Saiyans from Universe 6 should also not be underestimated. Goten, that guy in the middle from Universe 6 contestants, seems quite formidable. Be careful, Beerus warned, after glancing at Hit. He had a gut feeling that Hit was dangerous, as his aura was filled with lethal intent. Yes, I understand. Goten responded, preparing himself for the upcoming battle. Goten nodded solemnly. He was well aware of his ability to defeat Hit in an instant. However, he also knew not to underestimate Hit's time skip ability. Even a lion uses all its strength when hunting a rabbit. Thus, if he went all out, he could resolve most battles swiftly. However, in order to learn more techniques, he sometimes had to prolong the fight. At this time, the spectators from Universe 6 turned their attention to Universe 7. Yo, Kaba, look at those contestants in Universe 7. Are they Saiyans? Caulifla asked, her eyes fixed on Goten and Trunks. The prospect of competing against warriors from another universe excited her. On their home planet, Sadala, she rarely encountered opponents who could challenge her seriously. She was eager to see if there were stronger fighters in Universe 7. So she really wanted to see if there was any stronger guy in this so-called 7th universe to be her opponent. Upon hearing that Hit would also participate in the competition, her excitement grew. Hit was an idol to many of them. It seems so, Kaba replied, his gaze also on Goten and Trunks. They do appear stronger than the Saiyans from our Universe 6, but I wonder how strong they truly are. Hey, let's go over and say hello to them. Caulifla, unable to contain her curiosity, teleported to the Universe 7 spectator area. Kaba, fearing she might cause trouble, followed closely behind. Meanwhile, Kale remained behind, too timid to venture into Universe 7 audience stands. Upon reaching Goten and Trunks, Caulifla asked directly, Oi, are you two Saiyans from Universe 7? Yes, Trunks nodded in response, while Goten remained silent, finding Caulifla's brash demeanor a bit overwhelming. Great, I hope we can meet in battle, Caulifla declared confidently. But you better be strong, otherwise it will be boring to defeat you in an instant. Her own strength could be regarded as a very powerful existence on the planet Sadala, and her brother Renso was also the captain of the Sadala defense team. This made her develop an arrogant and domineering personality since she was a child. Krillin, overhearing Caulifla's boastful remarks, commented lightly, So you two are Saiyans from Universe 6. You are so arrogant. He didn't sense much power from the two Saiyans, leading him to believe that their strength was either mediocre or well hidden. Regardless, he was certain that they were no match for Goten. This girl was really too arrogant and brash. He knew the universe was vast, with countless beings more powerful than the Saiyans from the 6th universe. The contestants from the 7th universe, in particular, seemed unfathomable, suggesting they might possess immense strength. Kaba quickly intervened, trying to defuse the situation. Caulifla, please calm down, he pleaded. Caulifla, taking offense at Krillin's words, retorted, Oh? How dare you call me arrogant? A useless bald dwarf like you is a contestant from Universe 7. It seems the combat level of Universe 7 isn't very high. I shouldn't have expected much from you at all. Coward. Guys like you can go back to drinking milk and watching TV, and I can take care of them all by myself. Culver snorted proudly, then jumped up and returned to the 6th universe auditorium. Kaba turned to Goten and the others with an embarrassed face. I'm really sorry, everyone. Caulifla has a bit of a carefree personality, but her nature is not bad. Of course, I am also looking forward to the next contest with you. That woman is too self-righteous. Android 21 commented, looking at Goten. She lacks both looks and figure. She's so weak yet acts so arrogantly. If I meet her later, can I beat her up? Just don't kill her, Goten responded lightly. He didn't have a good impression of Caulifla. She was indeed too arrogant, and her so-called good heart couldn't excuse her behavior. Arrogance without strength had a price. He was just worried that she might uncontrollably turn that arrogant woman into dessert later, so he warned her. With that, he returned to the 6th universe's audience. Hey Beerus, is your universe ready? If you're ready, we can start it now. Champa asked impatiently, excited at the thought of owning Earth for the 6th universe. He was eager to see Beerus angry after losing the match. It seems you agree. I hope this match starts soon, Android 21 said with a smile. At this time, Shin and the old Kai also came over to greet Goten, cheering for him and the others. Then let's get started, Beerus replied nonchalantly. Vados leaped lightly and appeared on the ring. She addressed the contestants on both sides. Everyone, let me introduce the rules of the competition. First, our competition adopts a round-robin rule. The Hakaishin will determine the order of their universe's contestants. After a contestant is defeated, another contestant can take the field. The universe whose contestant stands on the ring at the end wins. During the fight, you cannot use any weapons or drugs to restore your strength, nor can you kill your opponent. The way to win is simple. Make the opponent concede or go out of bounds. Those are all the rules and precautions for this competition. Beerus-sama and Champa-sama, please decide the first contestants to appear. Vidos announced before returning to the 6th universe's platform. Hey, which one of you decides to be the first to fight? Champa asked Hit and the others. Me, let me go first. I want to get rid of all those guys in the 7th universe alone, Caulifla immediately volunteered and said arrogantly. Let me do it, Champa-sama. I will end this battle as soon as possible, Frost said confidently. He wanted to finish this boring match quickly and return to deal with the aftermath of the planet he subjugated earlier. Because the subjugation had not been completed, if a mistake caused the collapse of his image, it would be quite terrible. Not bad. It looks like our 6th universe is very ambitious and is confident in their victory. Then let Frost fight the first match. Champa said happily. He seemed to foresee Beerus's anger after losing. Ho 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 ho! Thank you, Champa-sama, Frost laughed grimly. He jumped and instantly appeared in the center of the ring. Caulifla was unhappy. If Frost dealt with all the 7th universe fighters, she wouldn't have a chance to fight. On the 7th universe side, Beerus asked, which of you guys goes first? Go deal with that guy from the 6th universe. Beerus-sama, let me go. I'm sure I can beat him, Trunks spoke up. The guy in the ring looked very similar to Frieza from their 7th universe, and Trunks had the experience of killing Frieza before. He needed to show his worth in front of Beerus. Okay, let me see your performance, Trunks. If you don't do well, I will send you back to your timeline. Beerus nodded, threateningly. Yes. Trunks nodded solemnly. He removed his sword and put it down, and with a light touch of his feet, landed on the ring. 6th universe versus 7th universe, Frost versus Trunks, Vidos announced. Come on, Trunks. Trunks, clean up that guy. Chi-Chi and Bulma cheered loudly from the 7th universe's audience stands. Mr. Trunks, it is my honor to compete with you. Please advise. Frost bowed gentlemanly, surprising everyone in the 7th universe. This guy who looked similar to Frieza was so polite, it was a bit unbelievable. Frost, you don't have to put on airs in front of me. I can see the callousness in your eyes. I believe you are the same kind of person as Frieza from our 7th universe, Trunks said indifferently. Despite Frost's respectful tone, the moment he bent down and bowed just now, Trunks clearly saw a sinister light in his eyes. That look was almost exactly the same as the previous Frieza. This also made him instantly conclude that this guy was definitely the same type of person as Frieza. Wow, Frieza, is someone from the 7th universe very similar to me? Frost asked, in surprise. That's right. A guy almost identical to you. Even the voice is similar. Especially that look in your eyes. It's exactly the same, Trunks replied indifferently. Really? May I ask? Did that Mr. Frieza from the 7th universe fight you? What was the result? Frost was curious. We fought. I dismantled him into pieces in an instant and then completely eliminated him, Trunks said truthfully. Boy, I'm not like that, Frieza. Don't even think of defeating me, because it's impossible. Frost frowned. Trust me, I'll get rid of you in an instant, Trunks said firmly. 2, please start the match, Vados announced. Almost as soon as her words fell, Trunks clenched his fists and a terrifying golden flame erupted from his body. Ha! Russell! The golden flames surged along with blue lightning as he transformed into Super Saiyan 2. He wanted to end the battle instantly and avoid any accidents. Wait, what? Blonde hair? Seeing Trunks' transformation, everyone in the 6th universe was overwhelmed with shock. Sans from the 7th universe could transform? Before Frost could react, Trunks said coldly, "You're done." Boom. He punched Frost heavily in the chest, sending him flying out of the ring. Frost didn't have a chance to dodge. Trunks immediately returned to his normal form to save his strength for the next battle. Everyone in the 6th universe was stunned. Frost was a strong contestant in their universe, yet he was eliminated by a Saiyan from the 7th universe without reacting. It was unbelievable. Damn idiot. He didn't even hold on for a second. Champa was furious, feeling like he was slapped in the face. It was a shame. What happened to that Saiyan from the 7th universe? How come golden flames appeared around his body and his hair turned golden? Caulifla murmured, dumbfounded. No, I saw it too. He turned golden. Could it be that Saiyans from the 7th universe can transform? Kaba said, in a daze. It was unbelievable. Saiyans from the 7th universe were too strong. At the same time, Kaba showed great interest in Trunks. Perhaps a battle with Trunks from the 7th universe would be beneficial. At this time, the injured Frost staggered toward Champa, his head lowered, his face extremely gloomy. He never imagined that he would be defeated with a single punch. Frost, renowned throughout the entire 6th universe, had never been taken down so quickly. Aside from the assassin hit, no one could defeat him in an instant. To make matters worse, that bastard didn't even give him a chance to transform. Useless trash. It's really embarrassing to be kicked out of the ring without even holding on for a second. It would be a huge humiliation for the entire 6th universe if a guy like you was allowed to live on Champa spat. His anger palpable. He was ready to destroy Frost. Champa-sama, you don't need to be so angry. Vitos intervened. Although we lost the first fight, there are still 4 fights to come. Our trump card is Hit. As long as Hit is not defeated, our 6th universe still has great hopes to win. If a contestant were destroyed just after losing, it would seem too petty and would affect the morale of the other fighters. She didn't want Champa to make such a mistake. Champa glanced coldly at Frost. That's what she said. Let's hope we win. On the other side, Beerus couldn't be happier. The first fight was a decisive victory, giving the 7th universe a strong start. Good job, Trunks. You did not disappoint me. Just work hard like this and try to get rid of all the contestants in the 6th universe in one go. Beerus shouted to Trunks in the ring, his face beaming with excitement. Great, Trunks. That's my son. Bulma cheered. Of course Mai was by her side. Oh, I didn't expect Trunks to strike so decisively. Frost didn't show his full strength, but Trunks didn't give him a chance to. This kind of personality seems completely different from Vegeta and Goku. No, 21 remarked in surprise. Most Saiyans tended to be vain with their power, preferring to challenge strong opponents rather than ending fights quickly. But Trunks was different. He didn't give his opponent a chance to show their full strength, finishing the fight in an instant. Of course, if Trunks wasn't decisive enough, he would have died long ago, Goten said lightly. He knew that the Trunks in the future timeline was the only Saiyan who did not die. And because he was the only fighter left, he had no room for negligence. If he made a mistake, the consequences would be dire for Earth. Vodos declared the winner of the first match, and the second fight began. Kaba took the initiative to challenge Trunks. He knew Trunks was strong, and with his current state, he couldn't win. But he was interested in Trunks' transformation and hoped to gain some insights. Additionally, he hoped Caulifla and Kale could discover Trunks' weaknesses through his fight. In the second match, Kaba from the 6th universe will challenge Trunks from the 7th universe. If the two are ready, the second round will start immediately, Vados announced. Mr. Trunks, please advise, Kaba bowed and said politely in the ring. In order to win this fight, I will not be polite. This fight is very important to me, Trunks replied firmly, although he might not deal with Kaba as cruelly as he did with Frost just now, because this guy was completely different from Frost, but he had to win this round. He clenched his fist and instantly transformed into Super Saiyan 2. Even against the weakest opponent, he would fight with all his strength, a habit formed from his future timeline where any negligence could lead to Earth's destruction. This had also formed his character of never being sloppy. Hey, transform into Super Saiyan 2, Trunks called to Kaba. Since Kaba was a Saiyan from the 6th universe and could participate in this level of competition, he should be able to become Super Saiyan 2. But Kaba shook his head. Sorry, Saiyans from our 6th universe can't become like this. This form is called Super Saiyan? It's really too powerful, Kaba said with a wry smile, realizing the gap between the Saiyans of the 6th and 7th universes. Feeling Trunks' overwhelming aura, he knew he couldn't win. What? Your Saiyans from the 6th universe can't even transform into Super Saiyan. Trunks was surprised. Everyone in the 7th universe, Auditorium, was shocked too. As Super Saiyan had become commonplace for them, as long as it was Saiyan, it was normal for him to become Super Saiyan. Yes. How did your Saiyans from the 7th universe become Super Saiyan? Kaba asked curiously. Sorry, we're each other's opponents now. I can't tell you how to become a Super Saiyan. It's up to you to figure it out on your own. I don't make my opponents stronger to make the fight more difficult for me. Trunks replied, shaking his head. He wouldn't do such a foolish thing. Alright, then come on. Kaba assumed a fighting posture, similar to Vegeta's. Excuse me. Trunks' body disappeared like a ghost. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Kaba. Without holding back, he used all his strength and speed. Boom! Before Kaba could react, Trunks' knee slammed into his lower abdomen, sending Kaba flying. Trunks jumped up, surpassing Kaba in an instant, and clasped his hands together, smashing them heavily on Kaba's back. Boom. Rumble. Kaba's body hit the ring like a meteorite. The solid arena was also smashed into a huge hole. Kaba couldn't stand up after being hit twice. Vados started the countdown. When the 8th second was counted, Kaba still couldn't stand up. The second match between Universe 6 and Universe 7 is also won by the contestant Trunks, Vados announced, making Champa's face even more livid, as ugly as a pig's liver. Great, Trunks. That's it. Just defeat all those guys from the 6th universe, Beerus exclaimed, sitting up excitedly. After praising Trunks, he looked at Champa. Yo, Champa, is this the power of your 6th universe mortals? It's simply too weak. Thank you for being so complacent before. Now it seems that the weakest contestant in our universe can knock them all out. Alas! Your universe is naturally garbage. The level of your mortals can only reach this level. Facing Beerus's ridicule, Champa could only grit his teeth in anger, but couldn't refute. 6th universe lost both rounds, and almost all their fighters were defeated destructively. Frost and Kaba didn't even have a chance to fight back. Vados, what the hell is going on here? Didn't I tell you before that I'm looking for the most powerful mortals in our 6th universe? But what kind of trash did you find for the competition? Champa blamed Vados with a livid face. He even wondered if Vados was sent by Beerus to sabotage him. How could she choose such a rubbish team for the contest? Champa-sama, Frost, and Kaba are relatively powerful fighters in the 6th universe. It can only be said that the fighters of the 7th universe are stronger, Vados said, slightly aggrieved. She had chosen well-known fighters from the 6th universe, but the 7th universe was obviously stronger. The key to their final victory was Hit. As long as Hit did not lose, then their 6th universe was not considered at a loss. Champa could only suppress his anger. Getting angry now or killing these trash would only make Beerus laugh more happily. So which of you two will fight? Champa asked, glancing at Caulifla and Kale. Hit, their ace contestant, had to be kept until the end. But he didn't have high hopes for the two women in front of him. Frost and Kaba were easily defeated by Trunks, and these two women were also Saiyan, likely not much stronger. Kale pulled Caulifla's arm with a look of fear. Don't be afraid, Kale. I think I've found the weakness of Saiyan from the 7th universe. I will fight this 3rd round. I will definitely beat him. Caulifla said arrogantly. She had spoken to them so arrogantly before, she couldn't back down now. Fear of fighting had never been her style. If she stepped down now, it would be too embarrassing. She had to beat the Saiyans from the 7th universe and show everyone that Saiyans in their 6th universe were not weak. Hey, then you will fight in the 3rd match. If all of you guys lose, I will completely wipe out your planet without hesitation, Champa said coldly. This weak race had no right to exist. Caulifla jumped onto the ring. Vados' voice sounded again. Next is the 3rd match, where Caulifla from the 6th universe challenges Trunks from the 7th universe. If the two contestants are ready, the fight will start now. Caulifla looked at Trunks smugly. I have seen all your offensive methods clearly. So, in this match, I will definitely defeat you. By the way, Saiyans from our 6th universe are the most powerful existence. Trunks wasn't sure where the woman's confidence came from. Don't blame me for speaking directly. Your Saiyans from the 6th universe don't even know what Super Saiyan is. With all due respect, I don't think you have the strength to defeat me, he replied lightly. Although this girl claimed to have seen through his attacking methods just now. So what if she saw through his methods without absolute strength and speed? she still had no chance of victory. Don't get too full of yourself. I will let you feel the power of this lady. Caulifla roared, her expression changing instantly. She clenched her fists, and silver-white flames erupted from her body. Her basic combat power was still relatively strong, at least reaching the level of 5 or 6 million. But this combat power was insignificant compared to Super Saiyan 2 Trunks. Get down on the ground, you arrogant bastard. Caulifla jumped up, exerting all her strength and punching directly at Trunks. But Trunks' expression didn't change. Her strength and speed were too weak. He grabbed her fist, pushed upwards, did a backflip, and kicked Caulifla's abdomen heavily, sending her body flying. Trunks didn't hesitate. He shot an energy blast with one hand, hitting Caulifla's chest. Boom! The moment the energy blast exploded, Caulifla's body was blown away, landing heavily outside the ring. Bastards. Trash. A bunch of useless trash. Ciampa's complexion turned as ugly as a pig's liver. He didn't expect that the first 3 contestants couldn't last for half a minute. The gap made the anger in his heart start to burn. Before the battle started, these guys became more complacent and arrogant than the other, threatening that they alone could defeat all the contestants from the 7th universe. But the 3 of them together didn't last even a minute. Who? Is the gap in mortals from both universes so big? Vados was also surprised. Meanwhile, Kale on the side changed. Sister. Seeing Caulifla lying on the ground with a painful expression, Kale's expression changed suddenly. The timidity just now had completely disappeared and turned into cold anger. Damn it! How dare you hurt my sister? I won't let you go. A deep voice came out word by word from her throat. A very powerful aura erupted from Kale's body, making Trunks on the ring excited. How is this possible? Such powerful ki. And it's so violent. Trunks raised his head, his gaze fixed on Kale in the 6th universe's audience, his expression a mix of surprise and determination. The 2 Saiyans he fought just now were incredibly weak. In fact, even without transforming into a Super Saiyan, he could have easily eliminated them. Yet, he never held back in battle, immediately assuming his Super Saiyan 2 form. But now, the Saiyan woman before him suddenly emanated an overwhelmingly powerful force that made him feel a great danger. What? What a powerful ki. What happened to that Saiyan girl from the 6th universe? Krillin and the others on the 7th universe's stands were equally astonished. They could clearly sense the powerful aura emanating from Kale. This is interesting. That girl may be the strongest contestant in the 6th universe, Beerus said, his curiosity piqued. Kale's sudden surge of power also surprised Ciampa. Vedos, what's going on here? Why does this Saiyan have such a powerful force, completely different from the other 2? Ciampa asked, bewildered. Before, that other Saiyan woman was very confident, but in just a few seconds she was defeated by that Trunks of the 7th universe. On the contrary, this Saiyan, who looked timid from the beginning to the end, who seemed to have no strength, unexpectedly burst out such a powerful force in her body. Ciampa-sama. I'm not sure either. Maybe it was her hidden power, or some emotion triggered this latent strength, Vados speculated. Crackle? Damn bastard, how dare you hurt my sister? This is absolutely unforgivable. Kale clenched her fists tightly, a terrifying aura erupting from her body as she glared at Trunks with ferocious eyes. It seemed she wanted to tear him apart. Kale, how is this possible? Both Caulifla and Kaba were shocked. They never imagined Kale harbored such immense power. Vados, get her on stage, Ciampa ordered impatiently, eager to see what Kale could do. It seemed that this Kale would bring them an unexpected battle before Hit entered the field. Yes, Ciampa-sama, Vados nodded. In the next match, Kale from the 6th universe will challenge Trunks from the 7th universe, Vados announced. Kale's body instantly appeared before Trunks, her face contorted with rage, teeth bared, looking almost alien. I will never let you go, she growled, her voice filled with venom. The situation seems bad. Trunks frowned, sensing the imminent threat. Kale began to gradually lose her sanity, her heartbeat becoming erratic. The pupils in her eyes expanded as if she were an ancient beast awakening. Ah! She roared, green flames erupting around her body. The entire arena trembled, her headband blowing away, her body swelling rapidly with muscle growth. Whis, what's happening to that girl? After feeling Kale's powerful aura and constantly expanding body, Beerus raised his eyebrows slightly, and then asked in surprise, "She looks like a wild animal that's lost its mind." He didn't expect this girl to become like this. But thinking about it, it seemed to be a bit similar to Goten's transformation. But Goten could completely control his own sanity, and this Saiyan girl seemed to be controlled by her own power. She had totally lost her mind. Beerus-sama, this might be a mutated Super Saiyan. It's similar to Goten's transformation, but Goten can control his own consciousness. Kale from the 6th universe can't. Perhaps this is her first time transforming. Whis explained calmly, "It's unbelievable that there's such a Saiyan in the 6th universe." Krillin and the others were astonished. Kale's burst of ki was almost identical to Goten's, indicating she might be of the same type of Saiyan. Both were talented. As for Goten, there were no surprises, because he knew that Kale also possessed the bloodline of a legendary Super Saiyan. Her bloodline seems to be weaker than that of Broly. It should have been easy for her to control this power. Maybe because of her timid personality, she can't control this power perfectly.
It's unbelievable.
Kale is actually so powerful, Kaba said, shocked. Kale, usually timid, was now displaying immense power. She far surpassed all of them. It looked like Kale was the strongest Saiyan warrior in their 6th universe. Wow, you are amazing, Kale. Keep increasing your strength and defeat all those guys in the 7th universe. Caulifla didn't care about the pain on her body at this time and began to cheer for Kale crazily. She really didn't expect that the timid girl who usually needed to be protected by her could become so powerful after freaking out. What a surprise! This girl's strength is incredible. It seems Hit won't need to fight at all. Kale can eliminate all the contestants in the 7th universe by herself. The happiest and most excited at this time was naturally Champa. A Saiyan from their universe was actually so powerful. It seemed that this game was already in the bag for their universe. Champa-sama, it might be too early to say that. While Kale has indeed exploded with unimaginable power, she can't control it. According to the rules, if she kills a 7th universe contestant, the victory will go to the 7th universe. Seeing the excited Champa, Vados reminded, if Kale couldn't control her own strength, it was very likely that she would end up killing Trunks. And as the result of the rules they set earlier, they would end up losing the fight. This was not a good thing. Thrar. In the ring, Kale continued to roar madly. Her black hair turned green, her eyes empty and pale. The appearance at this moment was very similar to that of Broly back then. But unlike Broly, Kale couldn't control her mind. Hehehe, now I will kill you. Kale growled at Trunks, her control over her sanity weakening as her power grew. At this time, Kale had almost become drunk on her power and was simply trigger-happy to kill anyone in her way. I won't lose to you. Trunks gritted his teeth, releasing more power. Blue lightning crackled around him as he leaped and punched Kale in the chest. But his punch had no effect. It's too outrageous. Her chest is as hard as steel. Trunks was skeptical, his attacks ineffective. He punched her in the chest, but she was unharmed. Ha! Trunks threw a combination of punches, but the ending was still the same. His full attack couldn't cause any damage to Kale at all. She didn't even budge. Hateful. Final flash. Trunks retreated back, and then directly fired Ki Blast at Kale. After the dazzling light faded, Kale was still unharmed. Then she walked towards Trunks step by step, with a devil-like bloodthirsty arc in the corner of her mouth. I don't believe you have no weaknesses. Trunks leaped again, kicking Kale's chest, but she was unmoved. Kale directly punched Trunks heavily. Boom. The terrifying power instantly cracked the hard ground. Then Kale kicked Trunks directly in the chest. Barf! A mouthful of blood spewed out of the mouth, and Trunks also returned to its normal form. The gap was too vast to bridge. That woman is too strong. Even if I transform into my hunting form, I won't be able to beat her. Android 21 admitted, frowning. Goddamn, Trunks tried his best. He can't beat that monster. Next, it's up to you, Beerus said solemnly. Trunks had already eliminated 3 contestants from the 6th universe. His performance was already quite outstanding. And that Kale was indeed not an existence that Trunks could handle. Only Goten could defeat that woman. Yeah, I got it! Goten nodded seriously. The next opponents, Kale and Hit, were beyond Majin Buu and Android 21's capabilities. It was time for him to step up. After seeing Goten nod, Beerus turned to Vados. This 4th round, we admit defeat. The next contestant for the 7th universe is Goten. Although by admitting defeat, he would be ridiculed by Champa. He would not allow Trunks to be killed. Okay, Vidos nodded, declaring the match to be over. But Kale wasn't done with Trunks. As he stood up, she punched him again. If the bowl-shaped fist hit, even if Trunks didn't die on the spot, he probably would have to lie in bed for a long time. It's over. Trunks suddenly looked terrified. Looking at the ever-expanding fist in the pupil, Trunks felt instantly surrounded by death. Just as her fist neared, a figure appeared, catching Kale's punch effortlessly. Boom! Goten, seeing Goten suddenly appearing in front of him, Trunks was overjoyed. He thought he was gonna die. Okay, Trunks, you've done enough. Go and rest now. Leave the rest to me, Goten said, turning to Kale. I'll play with you next. And the scene where Goten caught Kale's punch calmly surprised Champa and the others. Are you kidding me? Vados, isn't that kid the same one I saw in Beerus' temple? At that time, he couldn't even walk steadily. How did he catch Kale's fist just now? Champa asked, stunned. At that time, he was so determined to compete with Beerus in a tournament after seeing the clumsy gestures of this kid and that bald dwarf in the god realm. Champa-sama, both Goten and Krillin were wearing Whis-specific weight training suits at that time, also subjected to their own extreme gravity. Vidos explained. What? You bastard! Such an important thing. Why didn't you tell me at that time? Champa's expression changed drastically. He was now sure. This Vados must be an undercover agent sent by Beerus. If she told him about this kind of thing at the time, maybe he would not have been so impulsive and challenged Beerus to a fight. Vados, this bastard was too much. It felt like she was digging a hole and waiting for him to jump. Champa-sama, don't blame me for this. I always wanted to find a chance to remind you, but you didn't give me a chance at all, Vados said innocently. Champa could only frown and watch the ring, hoping Kale could power up again and eliminate the 7th universe boy. Trunks returned to the stage, saying to Beerus with an embarrassed face, Sorry, Beerus-sama. I lost. You've done well, Trunks. Leave it to Goten. Whis, help Trunks heal. Beerus said to Trunks with a rare moment of kindness. Obviously, Trunks' performance just now had won his approval. Yes, Beerus-sama. In the arena, Kale grinned, resembling Broly. She punched Goten, who met her with a punch of his own. Boom! The arena was destroyed by the shockwave as they clashed, testing each other's strength. Both bared their teeth, continually increasing their power, the ground trembling and lightning crackling around them. Roar! Kale's ki surged as she sensed Goten's power, her aura continuously intensifying while she roared. The vibrant green energy rose instantly, and powerful shockwaves spread around the two fighters like a sharp knife sweeping madly. Seeing this, Vidos and Whis quickly waved their staffs, enveloping the 6th and 7th universe audience, stands in an energy barrier. The shockwaves from the battle were too terrifying, and even Caulifla and Kaba couldn't withstand them. This sharp, blade-like air could have killed them instantly. Bulman and Chi-Chi, naturally, couldn't endure such a storm either. Huh!
Goten roared, and the green aura flames around his body surged instantly. However, he did not transform into Super Saiyan. He knew he could handle Kale, who had lost her mind, without needing to transform into the Super Saiyan state.
Rumble! The entire planet trembled, and terrifying cracks spread in all directions. The ground beneath the two combatants continued to collapse. Wow! That's amazing. Trunks was astonished watching the battle. He had experienced Kale's combat power firsthand and knew it was incredibly powerful. But Goten was matching her strength without even becoming a Super Saiyan. It was truly frightening. This kid, how did he become so powerful? Beerus raised his eyebrows in surprise. Without any CN transformation, his basic strength alone has reached this level. If he transforms, wouldn't even I have to struggle to beat him? He knew that Goten was very talented and his training speed was amazing. But in just over a month, his basic combat power had reached this level under Whis' training. If he was allowed to train for another year, would all the Hakushin even be his opponents? Beerus-sama, you don't have to belittle yourself, Whis smiled. Goten's talent is indeed remarkable, but it's still difficult for him to defeat you. In his mind, the most powerful Hakushin couldn't be defeated so easily. But one thing was certain, Champa was definitely not Goten's opponent. Now, compared to Beerus, Champa had an ugly expression. They all knew Goten was a Saiyan from the 7th universe, and he should possess a transformation. He hadn't transformed yet. If he did, wouldn't he easily defeat Kale? Seems like even this dark horse of theirs wouldn't be able to achieve good results. Kale, come on, crush this guy. Big sister's proud of you. Caulifla cheered loudly. She didn't expect Kale to be so powerful at such a crucial moment. Despite the current stalemate, she believed Kale could defeat Goten. Even Hit, who had been resting with his eyes closed, opened them and frowned slightly, looking at Goten. He felt an unprecedented oppression from Goten, a feeling he had never experienced before. The guys from the 7th universe are all too scary, right? Kaba murmured. I wonder if Goten can transform like Trunks did. If he can, Kale might be in trouble. There is no suspense in this match. Kale is strong, but she's not Goten's opponent. Hit, who had been silent, said in a low tone, as the strongest among them, he could clearly sense the gap between Kale and Goten. He wondered why Goten hadn't ended the match quickly. He was very curious about Goten's strength. He didn't know if his time skip skill could affect him. Mr. Hit, are you saying Kale can't defeat Goten? Do you think you can win? Kaba asks respectfully. Hit had lived for a long time and was a legend. When Kaba was young, he had already heard many legends about him. According to his elders, Heat had lived for at least 1,000 years. Regardless of his strength or his age, it was enough for him to refer to him with respect. No, I don't have any confidence if I can beat him, Hit replied seriously. This was the first time he had encountered such a powerful opponent. Even with his time skip skill, he might not be able to defeat Goten. He sensed a very powerful force hidden within Goten, one that hadn't been fully released. The one they were sensing was just the tip of the iceberg. Even you are unsure. Is that Goten so terrifying? Kaba's face changed. If none of them could beat Goten, the 6th universe's failure was inevitable. At that time, with the temperament of their Hakushin, it was very likely he would kill them all. While everyone was surprised and whispering, the battle in the arena changed. Goten and Kale unleashed their power, creating shockwaves that pushed them back. After a dozen steps, they both came to a stop. Groar! Kale, having lost her mind completely, jumped up and punched Goten. Boom! Her fist hit his face heavily, but Goten only stepped back half a step, resisting her full blow. A terrifying energy wave spread from the ground. Kale's expression changed slightly. Her full blow had only made Goten step back half a step. His physical strength seemed even more exaggerated than hers. Is this all the legendary Super Saiyan of the 6th universe can muster? Goten grinned, his eyes changing. His right fist shot out like lightning, hitting Kale's right cheek heavily. Boom. Bang, bang, bang. The power of the punch knocked Kale into the air, bouncing her off the ground multiple times before she rolled to the edge of the ring. Roar! The pain from the punch made Kale even angrier. Her aura surged again, as if it had no limit. A huge, dark green energy ball condensed from her chest, the energy within it terrifying, making the expressions of everyone in the audience stands change. This kind of energy blast was enough to kill them completely. Goten remained unmoved, his expression unchanged. Although Kale's strength was impressive, she couldn't break his defenses. Even if he stood still, letting her attack, she couldn't kill him. With Majin Buu's super regenerative ability and Zamasu's immortality, except for some special power of laws, no energy could kill him, and Kale obviously didn't have such ability. Just as Kale's energy ball neared him, a black hole appeared in front of Goten, swallowing the energy ball and making it disappear without a trace. Spatial ability? Goten from the 7th universe has mastered space manipulation? How is that possible? Even angels don't possess such skill. Thaddeus was surprised. In her mind, since angels didn't possess such an ability, this implied that it wasn't taught to Goten by Whis at all. A mere mortal mastering such an ability was shocking. It confirmed that Kale had no chance of winning. If this continued, she might die of exhaustion, because she couldn't control her current power at all. She was only bombarding indiscriminately. Damn it. That brat's so strong it's almost unfair. Champa's face was extremely ugly. With such a weird ability, even Hawkeye Shin might not be able to counter it. As everyone was surprised, the energy ball reappeared behind Kale, hitting her back before she could react. Boom! The explosion blew her clothes apart and sent her flying toward Goten. Let's end this, Goten said lightly as Kale tumbled toward him uncontrollably. He hadn't transformed into his legendary Saiyan form to see if he could pick up Kale's LSSJ bloodline. Although he already had a LSSJ bloodline, he hoped the system's ability would allow him to fuse multiple bloodlines. But after fighting for several minutes, the battle didn't drop Kale's LSSJ bloodline. After making up his mind, he looked at Kale, who tumbled over. As Kale neared him, Goten charged his fist with green energy and punched her in the abdomen. Boom! The impact sent Kale flying out of the ring, slamming into the edge of the 6th Universe's audience stands. She spat blood, lost consciousness, and began to return to normal. 6th Universe Kale fought against 7th Universe, Goten, 7th Universe, Goten wins. Vados announced. Ding, congratulations to the host for picking up the bloodline of LSSJ Kale. And at the moment when Kale lost consciousness, a system notification sound rang in his mind. Goten was taken aback. After fighting for so long, he had assumed he wouldn't get another LSSJ bloodline since he already possessed one, but now he had obtained it. It was a pleasant surprise. If these bloodlines could be fused, his improvement speed would be even more astonishing. Kale, are you okay? Kale! Caulifla and the others ran to the unconscious. Kale! Everyone looked at Goten with fear. He had defeated Kale without transforming, showing terrifying strength. He seemed invincible. Champa's complexion was even uglier. With 4 contestants lost, Hit was their last hope. If he was defeated, the 6th Universe would lose completely. Goten's strength was too overwhelming. Even if it was Hit, he didn't dare to hold out too much hope for winning now. At this moment, Hit finally stood up, staring solemnly at Goten in the ring. He knew his chances of winning were low, but he had to fight. Facing such a powerful opponent would be a great experience. He hadn't felt this feeling for nearly 1,000 years. Oi, Hit, you're our last contestant, and only hope. You must beat Goten. Champa suppressed his anger and ordered Hit. The thought of losing and being ridiculed by Beerus made him furious. I can't guarantee that. Goten is really strong, and he didn't show his full strength just now. Defeating him won't be easy. I can only promise to give it my all. Hit said calmly. He lightly tapped the ground and landed in the ring, his hands in his pockets, his expression flat. The 6th Universe contestant, Hit, challenges the 7th Universe contestant, Goten. If you're ready, let's start. Vados announced. Everyone's eyes focused on the ring. This was the last and most crucial battle. If Hit lost, the 6th Universe would be completely defeated. If he won, the 7th Universe's hope would be shattered. Come on, Goten, don't be careless. Goten win this. The 7th Universe's audience cheered. In the arena, Hit and Goten's eyes met. Goten smiled. I've known about you for a long time, Hit, the strongest assassin in the 6th Universe. Hit didn't respond with a greeting. Instead, he said, seriously, Goten, I admit that you're the strongest opponent I've ever encountered, so I will resolve this battle quickly. Although his opponent was very strong, Hit's time skip skills were not to be taken lightly. Ah, then come, got nodded. His basic strength wasn't very high, but his time skip skill made him formidable. In a fight, sometimes even 0.001 seconds can determine the outcome. His time skip allowed him to jump 0.1 seconds ahead, which was often enough to defeat stronger opponents. However, if an opponent's strength or speed vastly surpassed his time skip would be ineffective. Understanding the principle behind it, defeating Hit became simpler, as Goku demonstrated in Dragon Ball Super by surpassing Hit's 0.1 second time skip with Super Saiyan Blue combined with Kaioken. His power surpassed Hit so much that the time skip skill lost its effect on him. Hit took his hands out of his windbreaker pockets. This was serious. He had never needed to fight seriously in the 6th Universe, but against Goten, he had to give his all. Whoosh! Its body vanished, completely disappearing from sight. Even his kick was undetectable. What? So fast? He disappeared right in front of me. Beerus was taken aback. No matter how fast Hit was, it shouldn't have been possible for Beerus not to see him. Yet, it was completely impossible to capture his movements and ki as if Hit had seemingly evaporated from existence. Only Whis looked calm. Whis remained calm as an angel. He understood that it was Hit's ability to control time, jumping 0.1 seconds during attacks. Hit's signature time skip skill. Few mortals could master time control, making Hit an exception. It was through this ability that he also established himself as the top assassin in the 6th universe. And just when everyone was feeling extremely surprised, Hit reappeared behind Goten and aimed a punch at the back of his neck, a vulnerable spot that would knock anyone unconscious. As a seasoned assassin, Hit knew the body's weaknesses well. The reason why he chose to attack from behind was mainly because if he wanted to launch a frontal attack, the chance of success would be very small. A sneak attack from behind was more likely to succeed. However, he underestimated Goten's speed and reflexes. The instant he punched, Goten sensed his position and tilted his head slightly, making Hit's fist miss. Hit uses time skip again, this time attacking Goten's throat from the front. But Goten blocked the attack with his right arm. Whoosh! Whoosh! Realizing the gap in their abilities, Hit pushed his time skip to the extreme, creating countless after images around Goten, attacking like a hail of bullets. Yet, Goten dodged every strike effortlessly. Damn, this guy's speed is too fast. Even with my time skip, I can't touch him. After several uses of his signature skill and not touching Goten's body at all, Hit was completely desperate at this moment. The gap between their abilities was enormous. Vados, observing from the sidelines, commented, "It seems that the outcome of this match is clear. Although Hit is skilled, the gap between him and Goten is too vast. If he could ignore even the time skip skill, then Hit had nothing special in front of Goten." Ciampa seemed to accept his loss, his face gradually returning to calm. After hundreds of attacks, Hit stepped back, his resolve unwavering. If 0.1 second time skip was insufficient, he had to surpass it. He had always relied on his 0.1 second time skip to defeat opponents, never considering improving his, because it never failed him before, but against Goten, he had to break his limits. Ha! Hit roared, a purple aura bursting around him. What? Could it be that Hit can also transform? Krillin and Trunks were surprised, seeing Hit's posture and the Keats aura around him. The purple aura became more intense, making them suspect he might transform and become even stronger. No, he can't transform like a Saiyan, was clarified. His aura hasn't changed, even though it looks like he's transforming. Indeed, his aura is the same as before, without any improvement. But if he can't transform, what's the point of doing it now? After feeling that Hit's ki hadn't changed, Krillin and the others became more and more confused. Was Hit trying to bluff Goten in this way? This was completely stupid. They could all feel that Hit's ki had not changed in any way. And just while everyone was speculating, the purple flames around Hit's body began to dissipate, little by little. After his aura calmed down, Hit was exactly the same as before. Goten could see the confidence in Hit's eyes. It seems he's upgraded his time skip skill, but even if it's increased to 1 second, this battle's outcome is already decided. Got it, I'll give it my best now, Hit said, having extended his time skip from 4.1 to 0.5 seconds, a significant breakthrough. Meeting a powerful opponent like Goten had pushed him to this new level. Then come on, Goten replied calmly, which annoyed Hit. It felt as though Goten wasn't taking him seriously. Hit snorted coldly and disappeared again. This time, his time jump was more precise. His Ked undetectable. Even at the moment of attack, Hit's Ked could not be sensed. Bang, bang, bang. Its speed increased, hitting Goten a dozen times in less than a second. Although the attacks had no effect, Hit managed to land hits on Goten, proving his upgraded skill. So powerful. As expected of Mr. Hit, I can't see his movements clearly, and I can't feel his aura. But now, he can hit Goten's body. Kaba exclaimed excitedly, "Maybe we have a chance to win." Vados and Ciampa, however, remained silent, knowing the gap between Hit and Goten. Despite the improved speed, Hit's attacks were ineffective. That kind of attack, it felt like scratching an itch. Bang, bang, bang. After several more attacks, Hit reappeared, sweat on his face, panting heavily. His ki had become a little disordered. The 0.5 second time skip consumed a lot of energy. Seeing Goten unscathed made his expression grim. With so many precise strikes just now, this guy did not even move his feet. This guy's body is too strong. It's ridiculous. Hit frowned tightly, secretly thinking in his heart. It seems that I have to gather all the strength and finally launch the fatal hit. If that doesn't cause him any harm, then there is no need to continue this match. He planned a final, powerful attack, hoping it would be effective. Hit gathered all his strength in his right fist, targeting Goten's chest. This was his final move. Whoosh! Hit disappeared again. Sensing something wrong, Goten's eyes narrowed. When he reopened them, a silver light flashed. A silver aura rose around him. The temperature of the entire arena started increasing. The moment they saw the change in Goten, Vados and Champa were horrified. That is Ultra Instinct, they exclaimed simultaneously, their tones filled with shock. Hit's attack followed, but as his fist neared Goten's chest, Goten's body moved on its own, dodging perfectly. Goten grabbed Hit's arm. It's over now, Hit, he said, his voice flat. He gently struck Hit's neck with his other hand, knocking him unconscious instantly. In a moment, the pupils completely disappeared and the whole person lost consciousness directly. Then he fell limply to the ground. Mr. Hit? The 6th Universe fighters were in disbelief. They had seen Hit land hundreds of attacks on Goten, but it had no effect. Now Goten had seen through Hit's moves and defeated him with ease. Meanwhile, the focus of Vados and Champa was no longer the outcome of this battle, because when the attacks just now did not cause any damage to Goten, they had already foreseen the outcome of this battle. But what shocked them was that Goten seemed to have used the Ultra Instinct just now. Vados, did that guy use Ultra Instinct? Champa asked, frowning. To him, that Ultra Instinct was an angel's signature divine skill. Even among their 12 Hakaishin, only Beerus had grasped some of it. Unexpectedly, that bastard mortal from the 7th universe also mastered the Ultra Instinct, and it looked like he was more proficient in it than Beerus. This was simply outrageous. It felt like slapping the faces of all Hakaishin, especially him. His face was even hotter at this moment. Yes, Champa-sama, it's not perfect, but it's Ultra Instinct. It's incredible. That immortal mastered it, Vados confirmed, still surprised. In fact, every Hakaishin before had been exposed to the training for Ultra Instinct. It was just that their temperament was not very suitable for Ultra Instinct. Therefore, among the 12 Hakaishin, only Beerus had reached the entry level. Unexpectedly, there was now another person from 7th Universe who mastered Ultra Instinct. And it was surprisingly immortal. Damn! That skinny must have known about this before. This was a complete scam. Champa glared at Beerus. How about it, Champa? Are you surprised and angry? Where's your confidence now? Beerus mocked, taking the opportunity to tease the fatty. Now that he had such a good opportunity to mock Champa, he would naturally not let it go. Champa's face was livid, his body trembling with anger. He couldn't refute Beerus's words. It would be just asking for trouble if he responded to his taunt. Now. Whoosh! At this time, Goten also withdrew from the stage and returned to the audience stands of the 7th universe in a flash. It was a pity he didn't acquire Hit's time skip skill. With Vados' final announcement, the competition between the 6th and 7th universes came to an end. Nice, Goten. You and Trunks did a great job this time around. You didn't disappoint me, Beerus said, looking at Goten with a pleased expression. Although he had expected this outcome, Goten's strength was undeniable. Unless the 6th universe had fighters on par with the Hakachain, no one could have been Goten's opponent. Hit was strong. If it were anyone else, it would be really difficult for them to deal with Hit. But against Goten, his time skip ability wasn't enough. Beerus-sama, now that I have defeated the 6th universe participants, what about our agreement? Goten reminded Beerus with a smile. He had negotiated that if he won the contest, the Super Dragon Balls would belong to him. At that time, Beerus claimed that he had no interest in the so-called Super Dragon Balls. Do you think I, the mighty Hakaishin, would break my promise? I'm not interested in those so-called Super Dragon Balls. After the battle, you can take them away. Beerus waved his hand generously. His primary goal was to humiliate Champa and show how weak his 6th universe was. Now that he had achieved that, he had no use for the Super Dragon Balls. After all, as the Hakaishin of the universe, he already had a lot of power. Work when he wants to work and sleep unscrupulously when he didn't want to work. Look for delicious food. This was his favorite life in the first place. And he didn't have much ambition, so he didn't need Super Dragon Balls at all. Then thank you, Beerus-sama. Goten quickly expressed his gratitude. At this time, Beerus couldn't resist taunting Champa. Having delayed his sleep to defeat the 6th universe, he needed to savor the victory. If he didn't take a dig at Champa's miserable defeat, he would feel too sorry for himself. Champa flushed with anger at this moment. But there was no way for him to retort to Beerus' taunt because their 6th universe lost so thoroughly this time. In a fit of rage, he declared that he would directly destroy the 5 participants participating in the contest. In his thoughts, it was these 5 useless scumbags that made him feel so humiliated in front of Beerus. Hit and Caulifla were terrified. Although they were powerful within the universe, especially Hit, he knew the gap between them and a Hakashin was insurmountable. Hakashin had mastered the power of a universe's laws, and if he wanted to kill a mortal like them, it was really too simple. Even his time skip ability would be ineffective. At this time, Goten looked absent-minded. All his thoughts were not on the fate of 6th universe participants, let alone on the Super Dragon Balls. Instead, his eyes were constantly sweeping, observing the movement around the unknown planet. According to the development of Dragon Ball Super, Zeno and his guards appeared after the match between the 6th universe and the 7th universe. But there was no sign of them, no trace of divine ki, nothing. This made him wonder if his participation had changed something and if Zeno would even appear. After all, it was reality now, and it was different from fiction. Goten, I see that you have been absent-minded and looking around for a while. Are you searching for something? Whis asked, noticing Goten's distraction. Thinking of this, he also scanned around just now and sensed that there was no other key signature on this planet except for them. So he didn't know why Goten kept looking around. It's nothing, I'm just curious about this barren planet, Goten replied, evasively, unable to reveal that he was waiting for Zeno. Time passed slowly, Champa continued, berating Hit and the others, while Beerus watched with satisfaction. Suddenly, 3 figures appeared in the center of the arena. Goten was the first to spot them. Zeno and his 2 guards had arrived. The moment he saw them, Goten frowned. Zeno's guards noticed Goten's gaze and glanced his way, making Goten feel a chill of dread. Just a few seconds later, Vidos and Whis also noticed additional presence and they immediately looked at its source. Zeno-sama, how is this possible? How could Zeno-sama come to such a place? Whis was surprised. Zeno rarely left his temple, even if it was something important. Most of the time, he usually sent the Grand Priest to handle matters. But today, Zeno came personally to the unknown planet. Although he couldn't guess why he would come to this place, he was certain that Zeno's arrival meant trouble for Beerus and Champa. As Zeno had forbidden private contest between gods of destruction, even if there was a contest between 2 universes, Zeno must agree. But this time, Beerus and Champa obviously completely disobeyed Zeno's order. Zeno's style of doing things was like a child's, unpredictable. A single moment of unhappiness could make a dozen of galaxies disappear in the blink of an eye. It looked like Beerus and Champa were in danger today. In the 6th universe's audience stands, Champa's rage escalated. He prepared a destructive energy in his palm to kill the 5 contestants. Perhaps only by killing the 5 in front of him could he feel a little better. And after discovering Zeno had appeared, Vados also immediately opened her mouth to remind him. Champa-sama, shut up, Vados! Even if you beg for mercy, I will not forgive these trash who shamed me. And you bear responsibility too. In the entire 6th universe, you could only find these 5 useless fighters. Champa cursed, blaming Vados for their loss. He felt that Vados was also partially responsible for the 6th universe's loss to the 7th universe today. He clearly asked her to choose the strongest fighters from their universe. But the ones she selected were all arrogant bastards whose words didn't match their strength, especially the first 3 who were instantly defeated by a single Trunks. These guys were absolutely unforgiving. Champa-sama, I am not interceding for them. I want you to take a look in the direction of the ring. Vados said lightly. She was only responsible for finding contestants. As for how Champa would deal with these contestants after the contest, she didn't care at all. Damn it, you're so annoying, Champa said coldly. Then he looked towards the direction of the arena with great reluctance. It was okay if he didn't look at it, but once he did, Champa was so scared that he sweated profusely and his body trembled instantly. Zeno-sama! How could it be Zeno-sama? Why would he come to such a remote place? Seeing that very familiar face, Champa's body trembled as fear spread through him. Zeno's presence meant their private contest had been discovered. This could lead to their erasure. It's over! It's over! Zeno-sama found out about the private contest between the 6th universe and the 7th universe. This time, it's really over. We will be completely erased. On the other side, Beerus reacted similarly under Whis' reminder. His joy turned to fear, and his body trembled uncontrollably. Krillin and the others noticed Beerus' fear and followed his gaze. Seeing Zeno and his guards, they were puzzled. Why was Beerus so scared of these 3 funny-looking characters? Who are those 3? Why are Beerus-sama and the Hakachin of the 6th universe so afraid? Krillin asked in a low voice. In their impression, Hakachin seemed to be the supreme god. In the universe, there should be no creatures that could make them afraid. But why did the 3 funny-looking guys have such a deterrent effect? Trunks and the others also looked puzzled. Goten didn't answer, simply shaking his head. Now that Whis and Beerus were near him, it was naturally impossible for him to admit that he knew those Zeno guys. If he showed that he knows Zeno and the others at this moment, he would definitely be suspected by Whis of being a time traveler. It would possibly cause unnecessary troubles. In the face of absolute strength, this was obviously a relatively stupid approach. At this moment, Whis continued to remind Beerus-sama, it's inappropriate for us to sit here and look down at Zeno-sama. Damn it, you should have reminded me earlier. Of course it's not appropriate. Beerus cursed. He was just dumbfounded just now, so he completely forgot that he was sitting at such a high place. He immediately flew in front of Zeno at the fastest speed and knelt down in front of him. Champa and the Kaioshin followed suit. Zeno-sama, I apologize for not noticing your presence sooner. Beerus greeted, his voice trembling. Zeno-sama, why have you come to such a remote place? Champa asked tentatively, his fear evident. Was Zeno fed up with the contest between the 6th and 7th universes, leading him to consider destroying them? Perhaps the two had been neglecting their duties for centuries, attracting Zeno's attention, or was he taking legal action against them for different offenses? To Champa, it seemed very likely that someone sued Beerus for his misconduct, because the relationship between Beerus and several other Hakayoshin was not very good. So, even if he was sued, it didn't seem to be something incomprehensible. Zeno-sama, it's been a while. We're glad to see you well. Vitos and Whis greeted Zeno respectfully. I came here primarily to check on how you, the Hakashin, are doing. Zeno glanced at Beerus and Champa, who were trembling with fear. It appears that things aren't going so smoothly for the two of you. Zeno's voice continued. Didn't I clearly state before that universes are not permitted to engage in private conflicts, or did you two not listen to me at all? Although Zeno's voice and tone were no different from a 3-year-old child. But just these few words instantly made Beerus and Champa sweat profusely with fear, feeling enveloped by death. Because as long as Zeno wanted to, he could wave his hand and let the two of them completely say goodbye to this world. Even the souls would disappear together. Hey, Zeno-sama, Champa-sama hasn't trained at all in the past 100 years. I've also been handling many destruction tasks on his behalf. His body is out of shape, and he even despises the nutritious meals I prepare. Vados immediately seized this opportunity to complain, adopting a pitiful demeanor akin to a mistreated daughter-in-law, and began to snitch on Champa to Zeno. But what she said was technically the truth. It was because of these hundreds of years of laziness and unwillingness to train that Champa's strength was getting worse day by day. The current hem was estimated to be at the bottom of the 12-universe Hakakishin. Before the conflicts between the Hakakishin were restricted, he was very fit, and was at least able to fight against Beerus. Beerus-sama prefers sleeping and eating more than his duties. Whis also seized this opportunity to file a complaint. And after hearing the words of these siblings, Beerus and Champa's teeth were gritted. It was fine for these two bastards to contradict them occasionally. After all, Angel's strength was so strong, they simply couldn't do anything about it. But now, they had chosen this serious moment to snitch, pushing them closer to death. Whis and Vados' words painted an even worse picture of their negligence. One must know that Zeno could make their 2 universes, including Hakashin, disappear in an instant as long as he was unhappy. Whis, you bastard, you didn't lose a portion when you ate, did you? Beerus cursed wildly in his heart, but the sweat kept dripping from his chin to the ground. Zeno remained silent, increasing their torment. They didn't dare look at his face. The Kaioshin trembled in fear, knowing that if Zeno killed the Hakushin, they would die too. Yet this is quite irresponsible. Zeno finally spoke. Then let's change the Hawkeye Shin for both universes. After hearing the complaint from Whis and Vados, Zeno thought for a while, then said calmly, replacing a Hokashin seemed to be a very easy thing to him, not even worth mentioning. As soon as Zeno's words came out, Beerus and Champa were so frightened that they almost fainted. Replace Hakushin of both universes. Wasn't it obvious that Zeno decided to erase them directly?